very good morning. Welcome to Jakarta and round 9 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. This is the Jakarta E-Prix. This brand new circuit for Formula E. Formula E's first visit to Indonesia. And this is where it sits in the grand scheme of the season. It's the start of the second half of the year. 2 races in Diriyah done, Mexico done, Italy done, Monaco done, Germany done. We've got a bit of Marrakesh, a couple of races in New York, some London and some Seoul to come before the end of the season. Lucas Di Grassi looking to get his championship back on track after struggling a little over the course of the season so far. Jean-Eric Vergne is 3rd in the Drivers' Championship standings, just 16 points off the leader Stoffel Vandoorne. Sam Bird driving for the Jaguar TCS Racing Team, getting ready to go. Nick de Vries is 6th in the championship, won the last race in Berlin. Jake Dennis only has 1 podium finish so far this season with a 3rd place in the season opener. And this is how the championship standings looks coming into the second half of the year. Stoffel Vandoorne is up at the top. 1 win in Monaco, he's got 3 podiums in a row, and he is ahead of Eduardo Mortara by 12 points in the championship. Jean-Eric Vergne 3rd, Mitch Evans 4th, and Robin Price in 5th, and those 5 have a bit of a gap back to the rest of the chasing pack at the moment, but Nick de Vries launched up into 6th position with that result and the win in Berlin. Sam Bird down in 12th place. Sebastian Buemi has only picked up 10 points so far this season, but that's more than his teammate Max Günther, and it's just Sergio Sette-Camera and Antonio Giovinazzi who have failed to score. And as a result, it is Mercedes EQ, well, it's dragging at the bottom as a result of not scoring any points, but up at the top is Mercedes EQ and Rocket Venturi Racing. Fiesta Cheetah chasing them down, but certainly the Mercedes EQ squad are looking very, very strong. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me is the man who finished 3rd in the 1998 Kart Championship, Dario Franchitti.
Morning, Jack. Here we are, 2.37 kilometres, 18 turns Jakarta circuit, very wide through turn 1. Quite flowing corner, 2 and 3 taken as 1 corner. Got to prepare out of 3 for the 4, 5, 6 area, accelerating into another wide braking zone of 7. And then this whole section, 9, 10, 11, 12, threading the car between the walls into another heavy braking zone of the hairpin of 13. You've got the attack mode activation zone on the outside of the bank, turn 16, long tyre torturer in 17, turn 18. Out of there, across the finish line, it's a lap of Jakarta.
And the track in the shape of a sort of hobby horse that they use in the traditional dance. The head is over on the right-hand side, the tail over on the left-hand side in the traditional Kuda Lumping dance. There you go, there's your fact of the day.
Wow.
So, sunrise has just happened. Beautiful morning here in Jakarta. Very warm, very humid, which will be a topic of conversation over the course of the day, but Stoffel Vandoorne arrives as the championship leader.
Yeah, absolutely right. He's just made a little break, hasn't he? He hasn't only not scored points in 1 race so far. That was round 3 in Mexico City. So he's looking good. He's got good confidence. Nice couple of podiums in Berlin. Let's see what he's got today. Right now, though, for the drivers just sitting in the garage, that's the worst part. There's no air circulating. You just sit baking in the car. So they want to be out on track as much as they possibly can in this next 30 minutes to learn as much as they can about the track, but also to get some air circulating and cool down from these very hot conditions.
We're in the region of Ancol in North Jakarta, so over to the right-hand side was Jakarta itself, and then we're on the north, as you can see, with the beach on the left-hand side, and that is the top part of the sort of northwest of the Java island, which is the island that Jakarta is located on. Indonesia, a collection of islands, and that is Jean-Eric Vergne, 2-time Formula E champion, and he is 3rd in the standings coming into this session. And the pit lane opens, and Vergne heads out on the track. Now, they did do shakedown yesterday, but you're only allowed to run at half power, less than half power, for 2 laps. So, and we're in some classic Formula E territory here, aren't we? 1 day, brand new circuit, lock up for Nick de Vries. And now it is about just getting on top of everything and correlating basically from the simulator to what you've got here in real life and for the session later on. And you can see huge wide entry into the first corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at the dust as well. The lock-ups heading straight up the pit lane. I'm surprised it's dusty because they made a big effort to try and clean the track yesterday. Brand new surface, but incredibly dusty, which you're going to see a lot of track evolution. We've only got 2 30-minute sessions before qualifying, and it happened really quickly. So teams trying to learn, as you say, Jack, as much as possible, try and correlate what we learned in the sim and see if it all matches up. As we discussed earlier on the way to the track this morning, you cannot afford to make a mistake just because of the schedule this morning was so quick. Qualifying comes up in a heartbeat and the race not far behind that, so you've got to find the limit, but you do not want to go over it because it might ruin your whole day.
That's the hairpin right-hander of turn 13, slowest corner on the circuit. The two Mercedes are now into the final corner of turn 18 and out across the line. And they're running very much together here, aren't they? Which is
attention all teams, this is race control. Full course yellow in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow.
Practice full course yellow deployed by Scott Elkins down in the bottom right there. With the headset on. Well, they've all got headsets on, that's not really differentiating him, is it? But we're doing a practice full course yellow just so all the marshals get used to it. And the first international single-seater race in Indonesia since 2006, so let's get these practices in.
What was that? Was that
Attention all teams, this is race control. Full course yellow ending in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Green flag.
So they get back underway. Yeah, it was A1GP. None of these drivers actually were in it. Sebastian Webby would have been in it, but for some reason didn't. He was doing the rest of the season, but then got replaced or swapped, I don't know, by Neil Jani. There were Neil Jani, Salvador Duran, and Popin Tung, all former Formula E racers, racing in that race in Indonesia, Jakarta, actually South Jakarta, but none of them here. Sandburn in the Jaguar.
Just watching the cars over the bumps already, there's quite some medium frequency bumps, which the teams were talking about yesterday. At first, you think a lovely smooth surface, but you can definitely see that the cars will have to deal with some of those. Trying to keep the tyres in contact with the tarmac as much as you possibly can.
So De Vries, after doing the initial running right behind Van Dorn, now backs himself off a little bit of wheel spin on the exit as he comes over the line and down towards the first corner where Van Dorn is at the moment, turning into the right-hander. That's at 1, and now he gets right up to the wall before swinging it into 2 and 3. Robin Freins had a big moment there in shakedown yesterday. Then the left-hander of 4, and this takes you around the curve, around the Ancol Beach City Mall, and into turn 7. Car looking very lively.
Yeah, it's down to at least the lack of grip. Look how dusty the circuit is. But the other thing to note, the car hasn't been straight yet at all during the lap. There's been turn 1, 2, and 3 are taken as one corner. It's just the whole circuit is the constant curve. One of the straight points is breaking into turn 13, so you're going to see big fights for real estate into 13 later on this afternoon.
Then you come out into turn 16, where attack mode activation is located here at the bottom.
Finest corner.
Van Dorn now into the final corner of 18, out across the line, and the timing line is here underneath the lights there, where Van Dorn goes through now. Oh, I think that Vries just went in a bit deep.
Push turn 1, then cool down.
Ian James not watching, just on the phone.
He's multitasking.
Yeah, exactly. And Van Dorn goes quickest, and push into turn 1 and then cool down was the message from Stephen Lane. For what it's worth, Van Dorn did a 1 minute 10.681. So there is Mitch Evans.
Thing to consider, Jack, obviously the circuit's cleaning up a bit, there's going to be a bit of rubber going down, the grip's going to increase, but the tyres are going to overheat. You know, 1 or 2 laps, the tyres are just going to continually overheat, lose grip because of that, getting out of their operating window. And if you look at the surface, it's very dark, which means as soon as the sun gets on it, the temperature's going to go up even quicker. So in itself, it's going to be a massive challenge this afternoon. Not even this afternoon, in qualifying as well, later this morning.
Mitch Evans very happy to be leaving Berlin. When I spoke to him after the race on the Sunday, hasn't had a huge amount of success there as Evans, and a 5th and a 10th weren't what he was looking for either for he and the Jaguar team. Lucas de Grassi has returned to the pit lane in the Rocket Venturi, and now he's heading out again. after popping into the pits. Is he the only driver that him and Mortara both just came into the pits? Everybody else staying out there, maybe to cool down a little quicker by coming into the pit lane. The two Diesta cheaters are trying to keep out of people's way. Antonio Felix da Costa had a little trip to Bali to do some surfing before coming here to Jakarta. Apparently the surfing is more dangerous in Bali than in Portugal, where he usually goes because of the coral reefs. You can cut yourself on a coral reef, apparently, and Da Costa did.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh dear. I wonder if his team know that.
Well, I did ask him, is it in the contract that you can't go surfing? And he said, yeah, but I don't care, so...
Ooh. Having some incidents in my life out with the car, definitely care when you do injure yourself in the team and stop paying.
Yeah.
It suddenly becomes very critical. Oh, big bump there, going into 7 and a correction of oversteer. That's interesting. So Antonio Felix da Costa right up against the wall on the outside going into 7, and he discovered a new bump in the track.
Mortara still in the pit lane at the moment. Da Costa coming up towards 13. 11 and 12 look fun.
Oh yeah, that whole section looks really good fun. Da Costa's car doesn't look fun though. It looks like it's sliding around a lot at the moment. Maybe he's got it set up for more of a grippy track. You can see as he gets to the brakes, the back steps out. Just listen to him actually rather than listen to me. I've got to say the Diesta Cheetah looks a bit oversteer, the back sliding, less grip in the back of the car right now than the front. That will improve as the rubber goes down on the circuit.
How difficult is it to, like, remember that? Do you know what I mean? And not, here's a look at the bump coming into 7. Quite a few, actually.
Yeah, about 3 of them.
Oh. But, like, not set up the car for the track as it is, but for how it will evolve to be.
I think some of that's experience and some of that's just the way your mind works, and you have to think about what you want from the car later that afternoon, and with experience and any formula you understand what you have to do to achieve that, Jack, and understanding the surface, the way the tyre wears, all those things. That's where the experience of the driver and the engineer comes into play.
Jay Penske, the boss of the Dragon Penske team, watching his driver Sergio in camera coming into turn 13.
With the conditions of this track and the unpredictability that's going to create this afternoon, I think it's Sergio camera qualifying pretty well today. He's got that ability, hasn't he, just to pull those 1 laps out of not seemingly nowhere, but he's got the ability to absolutely wring the car's neck. Very impressive.
Made it into the duels for the first time this season in the first race in Berlin. Could have been in the duels where he knocked in the barriers in Rome. Evans and Bird both pit in the Jaguars. Lotterer pits as well in the Porsche. A little lock-up from Van Dorn as he comes into the first corner. Lucas de Grassi is currently quickest for what it's worth, a 1:09.7. And here's Nick de Vries coming into turn 18. Final corner. And, oh, quite wide and not too far from the barriers there, de Vries.
Yeah, almost looked like he couldn't turn in because the back of the car was sliding. He had a couple of goes at correcting to the left, and he just didn't want to turn, and eventually, as you say, Jack, was getting close to the barrier, so he had to. You can see almost looks like they're putting water on the tyres to try and attempt to cool them down a little bit.
Jake Dennis here. 1 podium so far this season, a 3rd and a 5th in the opening weekend in Diriyah, but hasn't really got back to those heights. Jake Dennis was hoping for a good result in Berlin because they went well there last season. It wasn't to be. 2 13th places for the British driver. And it's 0.2 seconds down after the middle sector. But probably not on a full push lap here, or certainly not at a 250. Maybe a 220 push for Dennis as he comes into the final corner. I don't think we've seen anyone at 200, and that I like 17 as well. It's a bit more of a corner than I thought it was going to be.
Just wait until about 30 minutes into the race this afternoon.
Yeah.
The tyres are torched, so that's going to be a proper corner. Yeah, there's a bump right in the middle of the straight. You see Jake Dennis going over it. You can hear the noise of the cars go over the curbs on the inside of the corner. Yeah, this is going to be a difficult place this afternoon to race. You see Roger Griffiths, team principal of the Avalanche and Andretti team. It looks like he's perspiring already. It's, it was humid when we got here at 6 o'clock this morning.
Roman Frights and the Envision. looks like the engine cover was about to come off, I think, so maybe a bit of setup work going on the back of the car. As we look now at Max Günther in the Nissan. Only 1 points finished for Günther so far this season, which was a 9th place in Mexico City. His teammate Sebastian Buemi has picked up 3 points finishes, but 2 14ths in Berlin were all that Buemi had to show. As Günther now comes through the sweepers at 9 and 10. You can see the mark on the ground where the car was bottoming out, and then into 11 and 12 and down to 13, the hairpin. The 2 Nissans running together.
Just watching the way cars go around the circuit, I would say that the grip level is probably surprisingly low for the teams right now, and it's going to be fascinating to see how much evolution there is, how much the track improves with every lap, because we're nearly halfway through this session already. We've only got another half-an-hour session before qualifying, and you've got to set the car up to run at 250 kilowatts qualifying power if you get for the joules, but you've also got to have those 1 laps at 200 in the group stages. So you've really got to work on 2 different setups. I know your theory, Jack, is you'd work more than 200 just to make sure you're in the joules.
Yeah.
And the worst you can start is 8th position.
But no one agrees with me.
I think it's
Everyone just does 250 all the time.
Yeah, everybody wants to be top of the timesheets, don't they?
18 minutes on the clock. Evans now goes to the top of the times, a 1 minute 19.2.
Sam Bird, P2, so Dragger 1-2 at the moment. Just, the cars are not straight. We've talked about it a little bit, but that just overheats the tyres. It just tortures them the whole time. So, and it sounds like the guys were expecting that from what they did on the simulators, but I think the reality is probably quite shocking. I think it's a great track.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not easy.
No, I'm a big fan of this track so far. It's all a bit, there's no like Mickey Mouse bits, as we say, you know, it's all proper corners, flowing corners. Okay, 13 is slow, but it still is kind of part of the whole vibe of the track.
Yeah, I love a slow corner. You've got to have a hairpin, especially with a wide entry like that. That's going to be interesting to see how people choose to take that corner this afternoon, whether they try and defend on the way in or take a normal line. But God, that's such a wide exit out of turn 1. It's pretty grassy through, or sorry, over turn 4, 5, through the kink 6, and over that bumps now into 7. Again, you're hitting those bumps, but the car's not straight, so
Yeah.
that'll make my life interesting.
9 and 10.
And then just to make things more difficult, the sun's coming up.
Yeah.
The sun will be in the driver's eyes through a couple of corners.
Tara now down into 13. Second place in the championship. 12 points away from Stoffel van Dorn. 2 pole position, had never had pole position in Formula E. And then 2 came along at once in Berlin, and then finished first and second. A great run of form at the moment, Eduardo Mortara. As he comes into the final corner, maybe held up a little by Antonio Giovinazzi, but he did get out of the way at the end.
Those 2 DNFs, second race in Rome and then Monaco, that really sort of blunted his championship aspirations a little, but the fact he's still P2, I think that shows how strong the rest of the season's been. And as a customer with Mercedes EQ powertrain, they've done such a good job this year.
Really tremendous. Here's a look at Antonio Giovinazzi, personal best in the first sector as he comes onto the bumps into turn 7. I just wonder with Giovinazzi what we'll see this weekend, because it is a new track for everybody, which hasn't been the case at any point so far this season for Giovinazzi and for Tickton. They've been sort of playing catch-up the whole time.
There's a caterpillar on the track. I was just watching them. Yeah, Giovinazzi's, I think he's struggled to get his head around the way to race a Formula E race, but then even the car, he's used massive downforce Formula 1 cars with big slick tyres. These cars are designed specifically to slide around with no aerodynamics, and it's almost more difficult to get back into a slower car than it is to go into a quicker car.
14.5 minutes to go, so we are over halfway through the session now. Cassidy slots into 10th place. Giovinazzi goes to the inside of Oliver Rowland. Here's a look at Giovinazzi at turn 13, getting quite wide.
That'll be the limit.
Yeah.
You can see when all the dust is coming up, that's not conducive to grip.
Here is Jean-Eric Verne in the DS Tachita, coming out through 9 and 10. Through the quick 11 and 12. And 13, and he's 3 tenths up at the moment on Mitch Evans' time, which is quickest currently, but Verne is in attack mode here. So this is going to be our first 250 kilowatt lap, first full power lap of the session, I would suggest, as he comes into the final corner now. Through the right-hander, out across the line, and does Verne get ahead of Evans? He does by half a second, so that's the first full power lap, a 1 minute 8.703 for Jean-Eric Verne, 13 minutes to go.
Yeah, looked fairly under control. That's what I expect.
Yeah. Well, the track is getting cleaner all the time. Giovinazzi back in the pits. Tire change for him. Lock up for Cassidy coming into the first corner. 11th on the timings at the moment and 13th in the standings. At his best, well, his joint best qualifying of the season in the second race in Berlin. But the team had already decided to bring a new powertrain into the pool, so as a result had to start from the pit lane and then serve a stop and go penalty. So his second race in Berlin was effectively over before it began. But that little flash of pace in qualifying was a much needed encouragement for Cassidy, I think, because he's struggled a little this year, considering how strong he was last year.
Yeah, I think exactly right, Jack. I think he was so strong last year. But as a driver, he'll know that he did his job, regardless of where he started or what happened. You know, he knows that he did his job. He knows that the car felt good for him, and that'll give him, as you say, that confidence. And like all sports, racing is a lot about confidence and not second guessing yourself when you're driving the car.
Cassidy here behind Jean-Eric Verne as they come into the first corner. Backs off a little. There's Cassidy to give himself a bit of a gap to Verne, who's still at the top of the times. Here's a look at Cassidy coming into 7. Getting right up to the wall. Still Van Felipe and Mike Lugg, managing director, and the can't remember the exact title of Mike Lugg. Chief technical man.
Engineering person.
Chief engineer. That's got to be it. It's got to be chief engineer. Maybe it's chief engineer. And this is their other driver at Envision, Robin Freitz. A little adrift after no points on the first day in Berlin after a horrible qualifying. And then 5th on the second day was a little better. He qualified on the front row actually, but ended up slipping back, missed attack mode, which cost him a place or two, but was kind of happy with best of the rest and felt that he wouldn't have been able to really beat the Mercedes anyway.
A fairly interesting day for him in Berlin. Just looking at the attack mode, talk about that, the sensors have been placed in a tricky position. We're near the end of the attack mode activation zone, the 3 sensors you've got to cross, and I think it's going to cost a lot more time than maybe at first looked, and especially as the inside of the corner is banked as well, so if the people that stay on the line will be able to carry a bit more speed than they normally would through a 90 degree. Oliver Turvey up to P2 in the Neo.
10 minutes to go. A reminder, hashtag Jakarta E-Prix on the social medias. Also at FIA Formula E on all the social medias if you want to keep up to date with everything that's going on over the course of the day. And there's also the live hub at FIAFormulaE.com/live, where you can get race day coverage and live timing and exclusive content on there as well. So that's how you can keep across all the action today, of course, as well as joining us here. Natalie points out it's technical director. Mike Lugg is technical director. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Natalie. Yeah.
9.5, not chief engineering man, which is I think a better title, but up to him.
It's more distinctive.
So Turvey second, as you say. This is his teammate Dan Tickton, and he's 5.6 seconds off, so he's not pushing this time, but he might go on the next one.
Could be a prep lap.
Yeah, it's a reasonable lap from Turvey, and the qualifyings for Neo have got a bit better, actually. There is attack mode, right on the exit of turn 16.
It is awkward, which is great for us.
Tickton qualified 14th in Monaco, Turvey qualified 15th and 14th in the 2 Berlin races, so they've had a car inside the top 15 the last 3 E-Prix, Neo.
It's starting to look a bit better. There's some light at the end of the tunnel for the Neo guys. It's good to see. 7 points scored so far this season.
8.5 minutes on the clock. Here comes Oliver Rowland on the power on a 200 lap out of the final corner. No, I think he's gone full power actually as he comes across the line. Might be doing a fan boost test, so we'll see. Yeah, it's gone off now, so I think it was just a little fan boost as he comes into the first corner now.
You can see he used a different line to start that lap, a wider turn to get a better exit, to accelerate across the line. We'll see that qualifying this afternoon as everybody starts the lap.
220 kilowatts, of course, in the normal mode, and then 250 in qualifying.
It's even written here in my notes.
Yeah.
You can see that they're not using all the road out of the sort of turn 8 area, and that's just because they're trying to prepare for the next corner, turn 9. Oliver rolling through turn 12. That is a great section. That whole, and I think that can definitely catch some people out this afternoon as people start pushing harder.
Out now towards turn 18. Because I like that. I really like 17 because you've got to get it back over so quickly, so you can't use the whole road.
Exactly right, and I think that's true for so many corners on this circuit. It's true for turn 3, 4, 7, 8. Because it's just combination of corners, and it's a real rhythm section of a real rhythm type of track.
When we see it again, you'll see that there's sort of a dotted entry to the pit lane and then a solid entry to the pit lane there. You see the dotted bit, they're allowed to cross that when they come out of the left-hander, but then they can't cross the solid bit of the pit lane entry. Here comes Andre Lotterer then, full power, and let's watch him down towards turn 1 then. The German who has he's avoiding the bumps quite dramatically there, isn't he, into turn 1?
Just go running the car low if he's doing that.
The only driver to have made it into the qualifying duels every single race.
He still hasn't won a race.
No, he still hasn't won a race.
Unbelievable. Today could be the day. Again, this car is low. Look how it's hitting the bumps into 7, which is why he avoided those bumps on the mid start finish straight.
Had a few days in Jakarta, meeting some of the locals as Andre Lotterer on his Instagram, which is always a fun thing to follow.
He's got some proper cars as Andre Lotterer.
Yeah.
He loves his old cars as well.
Fastest middle sector of anyone. He's a 1/10 of a second down on Jean-Eric Verne at the moment. Turn 16.
Bit of understeer through 16, the front of the car sliding.
Very tidy through 17. Let's see what this does compared to Verne. Third. Just under 2 cents away. Jake Dennis currently in second place. Incident between De Vries and Acosta has been noted by the stewards, so not sure what happened out there with De Vries and Acosta, but something has. As Rowland now comes through the sweepers. Down towards 13. He's a 10th down. He's in at 250 kilowatts as well here. 10th down after the middle sector, and he's got a bit of traffic up ahead, and the traffic doesn't really get out of the way very much. Antonio Giovinazzi.
A bit naughty from Giovinazzi there, and from his engineers not to tell him what's going on.
Giovinazzi into the final corner, less than 5 minutes to go across the line. Rowland goes 4th fastest in the end, a 1/4 of a second slower than Jean-Eric Verne. There is the Costa back in the pit lane with 4 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock.
And this track doesn't discriminate. It tortures the left and the right side tyres equally. I think there's many left and right-handers, so you know, with setup as well, you've got to be very symmetrical on the setup of the car. Some of the tracks have got so many more corners in one direction that you can maybe change the setup a bit to turn better left or right. Not the case here in Jakarta.
Low line 2 taking a bit of a wide line, or a different line, let's say, into the first corner to avoid the bumps. Oliver Rowland was saying on the radio that the tyres are going off very quickly. And it's not even that hot here at the moment.
Not yet. Humid. But again, that is something that for this afternoon, that's going to be so difficult to do tyre management. You see Oliver Askew getting out of the way a little bit. Maybe held up Pascal Wehrlein. The next Avalanche Andretti car ahead of him.
Can you do anything in particular to help tyres, or is it just driving? Because obviously you don't want like a slidey car, but you don't want a slidey car anyway, presumably.
Yeah, you've got to just drive within the grip level and not slide if you can, which is obviously easier said than done. If you can keep the car just within its grip level of the 4 tyres, then that really helps. But every time you slide, the tyre temperature goes up, so the car slides more, so the tyre temperature goes up. It's the most vicious circle to get involved in. And obviously, you guys can help with the dampers and stuff to give you that extra mechanical grip that you need.
Okay, and then a big cool down now. Big cool down now.
Big cool down. This is De Costa and De Vries. Oh, it's a big old moment. I think that feels like it was De Vries trying to get out of the way at the last minute, but De Costa had already committed to try and go past on the inside.
Absolutely right. It was the end of the thing. I just don't. Yeah. Was he getting out of the way because his teammate was on the same line as him straight ahead? Yeah. I mean, it looks like I don't think there was anything. Now we're going to have a little chat. See if there's any hand signals.
Interesting.
Hey, what is going on with those two?
2 minutes to go.
God, that is gone. That's half your practice gone.
Degrassi is now...
Hey teams, this is race control. I want to ask you to please have your drivers respect the cones at the pit entry. Respect the cones. Do not cross that line on driver's right, please.
Respect the cones at pit lane entry. So that's in the pit lane itself, I think, rather than this left-hander here. De Vries is up after the middle sector. Chucking in around 17.
He did say you don't use all the road in 17, but De Vries begs to differ.
Across the line. And it's third quickest. 1 minute 8.667. A few other quick laps coming in right at the end of the session. As you can see, the tower lighting up purple because people are in full power runs currently. And Nick De Vries goes third fastest, almost has a collision with Sebastian Buemi. Those are the cones that we're talking about here. So they've got to keep to the left of those cones. I doubt anyone's. Oh, maybe it's when they're coming into the weighbridge or something.
Or they might be cutting the corner.
Yeah. But they're not going to be whacking the cones, are they? Maybe, yeah. De Vries feels like Stoffel Van Dorn blocked him a moment ago.
Ooh, Inter-team. De Vries is having a bit of a morning.
He is, isn't he? There he is, in the Mercedes EQ, having just done his lap. Here comes Stoffel Van Dorn, his teammate.
Will he repay the favour? Stoffel Van Dorn locking up the inside front into 13. No. Gets out of his way.
6 tenths down after the middle sector. Oliver Rowland's actually flying. Here comes Van Dorn now. And De Vries is just in front of Rowland. Here comes Van Dorn into the final corner, and I think De Vries got in Rowland's way a little bit there as well. So we'll see what the lap time is in the end for Rowland. Van Dorn goes 15th and takes the checkered flag. Rowland goes quickest. A 1 minute 8.433 for Oliver Rowland, and I think that might end up being the quickest lap time.
By the Mahindra team, Oliver Rowland.
Here's Sam Bird. He is only 2 tenths down after the first 2 sectors.
He's pushing.
Sorry, he was 2 tenths down after sector 1. He's half a second down after sector 2.
Dare I say he's overdriving a little bit, Jack. We're talking about not sliding the tyres. It looks like Sam. It's the mechanical grip. Yeah, just to back it up a little bit. Not push quite so hard. Easy for me to say sitting here in the air conditioning.
Here comes Bird through the final corner after that little lock-up at 16. And Bird doesn't actually improve on that. Lap ends up 12th fastest in the Jaguar. And he's not happy with the balance on that car, Sam Bird, on the radio. And that's it. Roland's going to end the session quickest, a 1 minute 8.433. Oh, but Buemi nearly got him right in the line. Only 900ths away, Sebastian Buemi. So Mahindra and Nissan, first and second.
Good to see that. I mean, 8th and 9th in the team's championship for those guys. Nice to see that. The pace. See them run up front. Let's hope they can do that again when it counts in qualifying later this morning.
So practice starts coming up. Very difficult to read too much into that session though, because you've got De Grassi there in 3rd, Dennis in 4th. Championship leader is Stoffel van Doorn. He's down in 16th place in the end, slower than Oliver Turvey. Eduardo Mortara, 11th fastest. So there's an awful lot of things to shake out before qualifying gets underway. As you can see, 7:46 in the morning here in Jakarta.
Look how wide the track gets.
It's going to be
to turn 1.
Yeah, are you expecting some, like, off the line? That's going to be quite something, because you're going to be also you know what, this is probably, I'm just trying to think of anywhere with a longer run to the first corner. Maybe Mexico. Diriyah, I think this is longer than Diriyah.
Yes, it is.
Maybe
It's a decent sized run. Rome's a reasonable run now because it starts down the hill. It's a reasonable run. I think this is longer.
I think this might be one of the longest runs.
But it's so wide. Yeah. What do you reckon? I think in track guide I said 7 wide.
You think we'll get 7 wide?
Well, you might. But this lot, you might. You just never know.
No, that's so true. We'll be back in an hour or so for free practice 2.
Just like that.
Yeah.
The teams have got a debrief. The hardest thing for the drivers, I think, one of the hard things, is they can't get out of the humidity. They can't sort of find an air-conditioned spot, so hopefully their sort of driver pods are air-conditioned. I guess there's a bit of a battle of the paddling pools going on. Everybody's got these ice baths out the back.
Yeah, allegedly so. The teams were saying the drivers were saying on Thursday they were preparing paddling pools and which ones the teams were going to go and get. So I've not seen any just yet. Were you a paddling pool kind of man in your racing career?
No, absolutely not.
Really?
No.
Why,
Cold,
why?
uncomfortable.
Oh, too cold?
Yeah. No, it just... just never...
But were other drivers doing it? Or?
Yeah, some of them were jumping in them and it just looked, the ice bath thing just looked uncomfortable. Possibly benefits, I don't know.
Yeah.
Comfort is everything, Jack.
Oh, Jaguars is up. Jaguars is up out the back of the garage. It's a nice blue and orange number. Here's a look at the results then. After FP1, Oliver Rowland quickest, the 1 minute 8.433, 900ths ahead of Sebastian Buemi and Lucas de Grassi in 3rd place. It's like we're back in season 3. Jake Dennis is 4th, John Eric Verne 5th. Look at that, less than 2 tenths between the top 6. Antonio Felix da Costa, De Vries there in 8th place, just over 2 tenths, the top 8. Verline, Freitz and Mortara, the 11 drivers at the top. And then Nick Cassidy, I guess, didn't get a run in. I imagine, well, the Dragon Penske's a little struggling. Good 18th fastest. Stoffel van Doorn only down in 16th position, the championship leader. But, well, we thought he didn't seem to get too much traffic, but nevertheless, quite a long way down. So, Oliver Rowland ending the session quickest. Costa and De Vries having a little bit of a moment together out on circuit, where De Vries kind of got in De Costa's way a tad. But De Vries, he didn't sort of seem apologetic let's say. It wasn't like a sorry, it was a bit like, what are you doing kind of vibe, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just find the whole thing very odd, but there's always two sides to the story, right? Because Nick de Vries's teammate Stoffel van Dorn was directly ahead of him, so even if he got out of the way, like, there was another Mercedes EQ right in that line, so yeah, I don't know what was going on there, but I'm sure we'll find out. It'd be interesting to have a chat with them about it and see what they say. I bet they don't agree.
De Vries ended the session 8th fastest. He's now having a chat with Albert Lau.
Obviously, any doubt we just changed it. Any doubt we just changed it.
There's a look at the replay again, and that's Da Costa seeing it. Still not particularly impressed. That might be a
simple
I think he was trying to help.
I think he was trying to help.
Yeah.
What Da Costa says. Yeah, maybe he was expecting the ball, but he weaved. Anyway,
maybe
this was the interesting bit.
Oh, what here?
This bit is like, yeah.
Through attack mode.
You can show it on the screen now if you want to see it. I don't need to see it. I mean, I know what happened. And I was badly informed.
There you go. I know what happened.
Yeah.
Nick's punching the guy sometimes, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's quite combative.
So he'll go into the debrief now, as will everybody else, and get cracking ahead of the 9 o'clock AM free practice session in, as I say, just over an hour's time. We'll be on air in 1 hour and 3 minutes, and we'll see whether, well, De Grassi has a bit of pace. Mortara set the fastest final sector of anyone. Roland actually was fastest in sector 1 and sector 2. So it's not like, sometimes it gets sort of quite spread out, you know. Sometimes it gets, you know, someone's got sector 1, someone's got sector 2, someone's got sector 3. But this was quite a lot of Roland. Mr. Costa now heads into the engineering. You can get involved as well. Fan boost. Voting is open. QR code bottom right, or head to fiaformulary.com/fanboost if you really want to vote for that guy. Lotter at 8th at the moment with 3% of the votes. You can only do 1 vote per day. And Van Dorn, Da Costa, De Vries, Vernon, Evans are the 5 drivers who have fan boost at the moment. Da Costa and Van Dorn often winning it. And that will give them a power boost in the second half of the race, which we saw used quite effectively in Berlin. Right, we'll be back in just over an hour's time. Well, exactly an hour's time. We'll be back for the second free practice session ahead of the Jakarta E-Prix. A really, really good circuit, a really interesting championship battle, and championship leader, Stoffel van Dorn, only down in 16th position. So we'll see what happens in the second half hour in an hour. Welcome to Jakarta, the second free practice session about to get underway for round 9 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, the Jakarta E-Prix. Another half an hour of practice coming up before we then get stuck into qualifying a little bit later on this morning. There's a look at downtown Jakarta, and we're a little further north on Ancol Beach, and this is where we lie in the season. We're starting the second half of the year with Jakarta, then followed by Marrakesh, 2 races in New York, 2 races in London, and 2 races in Seoul to complete the season in the middle of August. Mitch Evans getting ready to head out for the second free practice session. The Jaguar driver was 6th fastest in free practice 1 earlier on today. Nick de Vries 8th quickest for the Mercedes EQ team after they seemed to struggle just a little bit, although de Vries was only 2 tenths off Oliver Rowland. It was a very, very tight session that. Stoffel Van Dorn was 16th quickest. Jake Dennis looked quite strong, 4th fastest for the Avalanche Andretti team this morning. And as far as the championship is concerned, it is Stoffel Van Dorn who is at the top. 3 podiums in a row, including a win in Monaco, that propelled him to the top of the standings. 12 points clear of Eduardo Mortaro, who really got his season back on track with a 1st and 2nd last time out in Berlin. Jean-Eric Verne is 3rd, with Mitch Evans in 4th, Robin Freitz in 5th, and those top 5 have broken away a little bit at the top of the standings. No points for either of the Dragons. Dan Tickton, his 10th place in Rome, his only point so far of his Formula E career. His teammate Oliver Turvey finished 7th in that same race, and that was his only points of the season. Mercedes EQ are at the top of the championship standings, and then it's Rocket Venturi right behind them as far as the teams are concerned, with DS Techeetah 3rd and Jaguar TCS Racing is 4th. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me in the commentary box is the man who finished 16th in the 2010 V8 Supercar race at Surfers Paradise, Dario Franchitti.
I'm not sure I actually finished that race, Jack.
You didn't finish the second one, but I think you finished the first one.
Anyway, talk about this race. Jakarta, 2.37 kilometers, 18 turns. It's dusty. It's pretty low grip. Wide entry to turn 1, 2, and 3 are all taken really as one corner. And setting up for the kink through 4, 5, close to the wall through 6, bumpy braking zone, turn 7. Then you've got the 9, 10, 11, 12, all taking the flowing section, heavy braking into the hairpin of turn 13. Turn 16, bank left-hander, attack mode activation zone on the outside. Jack's favourite corner, turn 17, and then at the final sprint out of turn 18 to the finish line.
2.37 kilometres, and there you can see the Jakarta Bay behind, where at the top of the northwest of Java Island. Track temperature 30 degrees, air temperature up to 32 degrees, and it's 2 minutes to 9 in the morning. So this is going to be a warm one.
It only says 63% humidity.
Yeah.
I'm going to argue with that.
Yeah, I think it's 120%.
Yeah, it's unbelievably humid, unbelievably hot, and we're sitting in air conditioning now. The drivers, the teams working on the cars, very, very testing conditions for them today.
Nick de Vries.
For the cars too.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick de Vries, the reigning champion, and he and Antonio Felix da Costa had a bit of a moment in the first practice session coming down into turn 13. And a few gesticulations followed between the two of them. This is what happened as da Costa went to the inside, de Vries came across, and da Costa had to take evasive action.
I think de Vries was actually trying to get out of the way. Just mistimed it. With the Formula E car, with these spoilers at the back, the mirrors, it's very difficult to see what's going on behind it. That's where you need the engineers to help you. And yeah, just I think a miscommunication. But this next bit, you can definitely tell they're not happy with each other. And that's where I kind of expected de Vries to give him a wave and say, "I'm sorry, I messed up." But no, they just kept at it.
That's da Costa's reaction. But now focus on free practice 2. De Vries not heading straight out, interestingly, even though Mercedes EQ are at the front of the line, nor DS Techeetah. So that's an interesting. Normally everybody heads straight out on track. Some have, but not everybody.
But they're trying to get a real qualifying simulation in. They're trying to go out when the tyres are actually cold, because as we talked about in the break, Jack, even if you cool the tyres down, they're not actually where they would be when you go out and you head out to qualifying later.
Yeah, after a cool-down lap, and they're doing really slow cool-down laps, the tyres come down to about 60 degrees centigrade, whereas right now, if they did an out lap and then a push lap, it would be 30 or 40 degrees centigrade, so they just can't get them down to that window.
But that's what they're going to experience in group qualifying anyway later on, because it's going to be the laps towards the end of group qualifying which are going to be the quicker ones, when the track's better but the tyres maybe are a bit warmer, and you've really got to judge that well, cool the tyres down and get that one special lap, because we heard earlier in free practice 1 drivers saying the tyres have gone off during the lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with that left-hander at turn 17, you don't want the rear tyres to be struggling at that point. And it's mainly the rears, I think, that the heat is struggling with. It's the back end is sliding rather than you're sort of understeering.
Yeah, absolutely. But what you have to do for the race is you have to build understeer into the setup so it protects those rear tyres as much as possible for the 45 minutes plus 1 lap. So you're going to end up with a bit of understeer early in the race, but then you're going to feel the rear tyre start to overheat, start to slide around a bit more. And that not only affects the car, you know, in acceleration and cornering, but how much energy the drivers are able to regenerate into the battery, because obviously the more grip, the more pressure you can put into that rear axle and regenerate more energy. So that's going to limit that this afternoon, and the drivers they're up against it. I think it's going to be a fascinating battle. I think it's a 45-minute plus a lap race, but I think there's a bit of survival as well.
Maybe a bit of rain, but the forecast says basically it's 50-50 chance. So, and that's kind of how it is in these parts. It either sort of rains or it doesn't. So I guess that is a 50% chance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's all very queuey, isn't it? Before 18.
It looks like it's getting away.
Yeah, copy that. We see that.
The chance of rain is going later in the afternoon. Look, it's the grassy bouncing over the bumps into turn 7.
So I think you're right. Everybody's doing an outlap and then just getting straight on it at 250 kilowatts of power, replicating a duel, basically. But even when you're only replicating really the quarter-final, aren't you? Because then once you're into the semis and the finals, your tyres have got that heat in them anyway. And also, if you've just come out from qualifying Group B, you're not really replicating that either, because you've just been on those tyres for ages.
And this is where you have to use your experience as a team and as a driver to know exactly what the offset is and what you're searching for the perfect balance for those laps. You see Lucas Degrassi just in the back end of the car squirming around as he tries to put the power down. 108.7, released this morning with 108.4.
That's reasonable actually, straight out of the blocks. And with the track, you would have thought getting a little bit dirtier in the gap between the sessions.
And a lot warmer.
A lot warmer, yeah.
Yeah, look how dark the asphalt is, and with the sun beating down on that, track temperature is going to come up so quickly, and that is going to be a real challenge. We talked about these long corners, turns 1, 2, and 3. The cars are now in turn 3. That's one long corner. It's just torturing those left-hand side tyres.
26 minutes to go. Here comes Nick de Vries across the line. Van Dorn now goes fastest. All these lap times flying in as people do their first runs. It's still Degrassi's time that is holding up. Van Dorn has gone quicker by a 10th, but Degrassi's still second fastest. Oliver Rowland, who was quickest in free practice 1, now goes 6th quickest. Alexander Sims sliding his way out of the final corner, and he comes across the line and goes 15th quickest. Mitch Evans starting a lap, by the looks of things, in the Jaguar. Down towards turn 1. Here's a look at the Costa into turn 13. Pretty big lockup.
Yeah, that is sizable. You see him trying to get off the brakes, trying not to flat spot the tyres. These tyres are very robust, and the car hitting the ground. He just unloads the inside front just by turning to the right a bit. It unloads the right-hand side tyre. You see the lockup. So now watching Mitch Evans against the wall, comes on to brake for turn 7. Bouncing around on the brakes. Mitch Evans got such a lovely, smooth driving style. He's got a Porsche ahead of him too, though, which might hold him up. No, nice work from the Porsche to get out of the way.
10th and a half up after sector 1. Will get his middle sector split as he comes through the right-hander now of 12, and then down into 13. Bit of traffic ahead. He's now half a 10th down on Stoffel Van Dorn, so he's lost a 10th compared to the Belgian in the middle sector.
And this is the bit where you've got to trust the guys around you. Look at this. This is proper rush hour stuff now. And you've got to hope that these guys see you get out of the way, and you've got to commit to it. Oh, really late stuff. This is dangerous stuff here.
Evans gets ahead of de Vries in the end, comes across the line, and it was a 9th place lap time for Mitch Evans. Lost half a second in that final sector.
Yeah, and he just couldn't commit, Jack, in that final sector because he's feathering the throttle as this guy going to get out of my way. And you can see Nick de Vries trying to do the right thing. You've got Sam Byrne and the other Jaguar just appearing to the right of the screen, but everybody's trying to do their best to get out of the way. But you just don't know if they've seen you or not, so you cannot fully commit.
And Evans was a bit out of sequence in all of that, wasn't he? Doing his lap later than everybody else, so everybody else was slowing down to get a gap again. Less than 24 minutes to go. Van Dorn fastest, Degrassi second, Webby third, Gunter fourth, Turvey fifth. And This is Andre Lotterer, who's at full power, coming past them all on his left-hand side, and right up to the wall on the exit, and he's got a tendon halfway. Back end going, front end locking, kind of got it in.
Yeah, kind of, but the trajectory was wrong. The car was pointing more to the outside wall than through the corner, so he might have lost a bit of time there.
Through 11 and 12.
Oh, traffic again.
He's 2 tenths down now. Sailing into turn 13.
Good through the middle of 13. Let's see how much understeer he's got on 16. Bank corner, I missed the apex.
Yeah. So I think the time is sliding away here for Andre Lotterer into the final corner. Sute Camera goes third quickest in the Dragon. Lotterer goes from 20th up into 17th, so he lost quite a lot of time, 7 tenths in that final sector pretty much.
He's been a qualifying machine this year.
Yeah. His frights. Whee!
Oh, God, that is commitment right there.
Cassidy was slowing down, Verne was going around Cassidy. Frights was going around them both. He's got a lock-up here, and wide at 16.
He got unsighted by the Nissan ahead of him. This is crazy right now. I don't know I've seen it quite as tough as this before.
Runs across the line, 21st at the moment, and remains 21st, 1.3 seconds down. But had a lot of traffic and a lot of errors on that lap, Robin Frights.
And I think those errors were helped along by that traffic jam.
22 minutes to go. Van Dorn returns to the pit lane. So the camera, Byrne, Verline, De Vries and Askew all have already. Here comes Sebastian Buemi, Max Günther. His teammate Buemi was second quickest in first practice. Günther ended the session 18th quickest, but didn't actually get a lap in at full power. So that explains certainly some of the deficit to his teammate. He's not at full power here. And after the middle sector, he's 2.2 seconds away from Stoffel Van Dorn. Up into the final corner. No, sorry, turn 16.
Turn 16 is another one of those corners with a curved braking zone. The car is straight for a minute percentage of this lap, which makes it difficult for the drivers, but also just tortures the time. And I think we'll only realise how much when we get to the race later this afternoon.
Giovinazzi starts a lap. He's 22nd at the moment. His teammate Sende Camera third quickest. He's not at full power here, Antonio Giovinazzi. As he comes into 2 and then 3.
Interesting, not a massively wide entry into turn 3. I thought it was a wider entry there to open up the exit.
8 tenths down in sector 1. Now into turn 7. Through 8, which becomes 9, which then flicks back left into 10. The Porsche of Verline up ahead and keeps out of the way as Giovinazzi comes through. He's now 2 seconds down after the middle sector. He's not in full power, and but nobody is on a flying lap just yet.
And he could be doing a racing, race run here. He's trying to hit his energy targets, trying to look at how as he's regenerating energy, how the battery temperature's going up, all those sort of things. Just getting information for this afternoon. The drivers are getting used to the rhythm of the circuit as well, and just going quicker by the experience of the track. Just getting information, learning, to give information to the engineers that they can give the best performance this afternoon.
Best result of 16th so far this season, Antonio Giovinazzi. Verline, meanwhile, has gone full power.
Dancing on the brakes.
Yeah, lovely.
Looks like he missed the corner though.
Right up to the wall as well on the exit of 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think he was just kind of trying to catch it most of the way through turn 1, and because of the width of the track in turn 1, it is a seriously tough corner.
God, he's 3 tenths up after the first sector here, Pascal Verline.
Mighty commitment into 1.
Over the curves now into the quick flicks. Askew's up ahead of him. Keeps out of the way, and he's still 3 tenths up after sector 2. also quick laps coming in from Sete Kammer and Sam Bird. As Verline comes through 16. Now into the final corner at turn 18. Boy, on the dirty stuff.
Just got a bit wide out of 18.
But still goes quickest. A 1 minute 8.410. 2/10 quicker than Stoffel van Doorn, and the quickest lap time of the Jakarta E-Prix circuit. De Grassi comes through. Here comes Alexander Sims. He's 8/10 down after the first 2 sectors, not running at full power. What does Bird end up doing? He's 3/10 down after the middle sector, and he goes 3rd quickest, Sam Bird, in the Jaguar TCS car. Sete Kammer slotted into 5th place. Here's a replay of Verline just getting a bit wide at the final corner.
You're just trying to open up the exit as much as possible, trying to turn it and accelerate as he left the corner, and you saw the result. As we've seen most of the seasons, a lot of focus on qualifying. A lot of quick laps being done, a lot of full power laps, a lot of maximum attack laps, not many race type laps with energy saving and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, just the way that the championships change with this new qualifying format. You want to be a championship contender, you've got to start up front.
Yeah, it's so true, because they've been, as we ride with Mitch Evans down into turn 1. Let's go with the heads-up display, a little bit wide of the apex, and he's bailed out of it.
Just didn't get in there, and you can see the front of the car sliding.
But when Formula E started, it was sort of everyone focused on 1 lap pace. Then everybody realised actually efficiency was the way to win. And everybody focused on that. And then now we're kind of back to 1 lap pace being the really important to get.
Yeah, and
Obviously both are important and always have been, but it feels like focus went from 1 lap away to efficiency and now back a little bit to 1 lap.
yeah, I think today efficiency is going to be important, again, because of the temperatures, because of how you can and cannot regenerate the energy as everything starts to get hot. You know, the battery temp as it starts to go up as you try and put more energy
So
back
just
into
make sure
it.
the brakes are up to temp. And then we'll go scenario 3, push 250, scenario 3, push 250.
Right, here we go.
Push 250 is the message. You can see the power up to 250 kilowatts on the right-hand side, over 200 kilometers an hour into turn 1.
Again, you see that wide entry, looking for the apex, a bit of oversteer, gets the curb, back to the throttle, and just watch the way turn 1 goes straight into 2. Settle the car down, keep it over to the right-hand side to open up turn 4. Through the kink of 5 to again just fair in the throttle, trying not to spin the rear tyres up over the bumps. Curve braking zone into 7, the apex is over to the left. Don't go too wide though again, because into turn 8. This is through this great section of 8 into 9. Up against the wall through 10, but opening up the angle for 11. Back to the throttle, oh, snapper oversteer flat through there into 12. Picking out your braking point. Through turn 13. Throttle again, now you've got a couple of curved kinks there, and then braking again and turning into 16. Use the banking to your advantage. Through 17, just torturing the tyres are really over their temperature by now. Pick out your apex, back to throttle, but you've got the rear dancing around. Run to the line. P6, what a great lap. For Nick de Vries, he will not be happy with that.
2/10 in sector 1, pretty much matched Verline in sector 2, and then another couple of tenths in the final sector, which, considering Verline's sector he lost a bit of time, is not ideal. Here comes Oliver Turvey, who was reasonably quick in first practice, 15th fastest, which relatively for the Neos is decent. Here comes Turvey now, currently 13th. And he goes quickest. 1 minute 8.379 ticked him, then goes quicker. Neo 1-2, stop the clocks.
That Neo chassis looks like it's got a load of grip, where you saw Nick de Vries sliding out of the last corner. Oliver Turvey was able to get the power down, and the car dug into the track. The car had good mechanical grip. You see the Porsche sliding around through here. The Neo looked a lot better. Very impressive stuff for the Neo team.
Yeah, Lotterer is not going to beat the Neo lap time here. I don't think Stoffel van Doorn is either. Well, it'll be close with van Doorn. Here comes Lotterer. He only goes 7th quickest in the Porsche. Giovinazzi improved to go 11th fastest. There is the Neo team. Moderately happy by the looks of things. Here comes Van Dorn. He is less than a tenth away after sector 1. A few goes on the way in, a few goes on the way out, and Van Dorn comes through and remains 4th fastest. Improves, but doesn't improve his position.
That last corner is a tricky wee thing. It reminds me of the last corner at Adelaide.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, look, you'll see this. Turn in, turn in. Catch, catch. yeah, exactly.
Good stuff.
So, Tixon quickest, Turvey second. Verline third, Van Dorn fourth, Sam Bird in 5th place. Eduardo Mortara is currently down in 13th spot. Jake Dennis has done a reasonable first sector. De Vries is at full power at the moment. And he's 2 tenths down after the middle sector. Dennis has just done the fastest final sector. And De Vries is right up to the wall on the exit of 12.
Using all the track. Again, think the tyres are overheating. They've done a cool lap, but they're definitely not in their operating window. So if he can get close to his time from before, I have to say that was an improvement.
De Vries then coming into the final corner again. The Mercedes EQ looking lively, much neater and tighter through the final corner. Dennis goes 6th quickest. De Vries comes through and remains in 10th. Doesn't actually improve his lap time in the end. There's a 1:09.0 compared to a 1:08.8 that he's done before. Here's Eduardo Mortara, and he is just about to start a lap. So let's see what the second place man in the championship, the pole sitter for the last 2 races. Not many drivers have got 3 poles in a row. Alexander Sims and Antonio Felix da Costa are, I think, the only 2. Yeah. So Mortara would love to match them later on this afternoon. If he gets through the duels, Mortara, he's made the final every time this season.
He's in a rich vein of form, isn't he, right now?
He's won more duels than anyone else, 10.
Oh, neat, tidy through 5. He's able to keep it nice and tight. Whether that translates to quick lap time, we'll see. A bit of traffic ahead.
Less than a tenth down on Dan Tickton.
This is the point you're looking at the car ahead thinking either keep going or I hope you've seen me. Ah, no, he's... Let's see here. Yeah, he might be okay.
Middle sector split for Mortara. He's 3 tenths away from Tickton. Those Neo laps are legit.
Honestly, Jack, the car looked fantastic. It looked like it was digging in at a really good mechanical grip, so nice work from the Neo team. Look at correcting the slides all the way through 17. This tricky corner of 18. This is causing everybody fits. Just the angle and the speed taken in makes it very difficult.
Mortara jumps up to 11th quickest, 4 tenths away from Tickton. Jerome D'Ambrosio, the team principal, and Delphine Biscay, the team manager there of Rocket Venturi. And Degrassi, meanwhile, has done a good first sector, but he's sliding a lot in 16.
That's one of the great things about Formula E car. You can hear that the screeching of tyres. When that happens, it means they're sliding over the surface. They don't have the grip required yet. Very messy out of 18. Tyres are not happy.
He was less than a tenth of a second away after the middle sector. Lost a second in the final third of the lap. Jake Dennis is 600ths up after the middle sector in the Andretti. Up into 6th goes Sergio Sene Camara. Here comes Jean-Eric Verne now. And he is 3 tenths away after the middle sector. And he goes into 7th place. Eyes peeled for Jake Dennis out of the final corner in the Andretti. 600ths up. Does he go to the top of the times? He does. A 1:08.253. 800ths clear of Tickton. Turvey third. Verline fourth, Van Dorn fifth. That's a bit more like it for the Andretti team. Have had a tough season so far. Antonio Felix da Costa taking it very steady into the final corner to... Well, he had enough gap anyway, but now he's on a quick lap.
He's just gone nice and easy on the tyres, trying to keep them in their out of their operating window as long as possible, trying to keep them cool. And he locks up in turn 1, misses the apex, and that's the end of the lap. Really, look at the dust as he went offline. Turn 1 in the race this afternoon, lap 1. It's going to be really interesting. Dust offline. See if he keeps pushing. Tell you what, yes, the Cheetah looks pretty good over the bumps, where some of the other cars are really hitting the ground, and the dampers aren't sort of squashing the bumps. The Cheetah looks like it's really absorbing the bumps very well.
8 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Mortara coming into the final corner, and he's a quarter of a second away from Jake Dennis. So if this goes well, he could get up into 5th place, right up towards the wall. Roland goes 7th quickest. Mortara doesn't improve.
I think he got the wall. I think he left a little mark on the wall. Small one.
Here's Antonio Felix Acosta coming. Oh, this was the lock-up into turn 1.
Just watch as he starts to turn, unload the front tyre, blocks up, misses the apex. Now watch the dust. Oh, he's cut out flipper. Just look at this, Neil. Look at the grip available. This is probably a big slide.
Yeah.
Ah, there you go. There's your slide.
Wait, Turby's all over the place. Got no grip at all. Through the first sector, he's a quarter of a second down on Dan Tictum. We're going to see Tictum's first sector on the bottom right. He's 2/10 away from their previous best. Seven minutes on the clock. Turby through the middle sector, and he's almost half a second away and gets a little bit balked by Bird, I think. A little bit distracted. Tictum through the middle sector. He's 3.6 seconds away, so Tictum's backed off. Yeah. Practicing attack mode activation there, the Mahindra. It's really slow out on the outside there. You're going to lose a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. The position of the sensor is one thing. Dust. Imagine you're the first person to go into attack mode in the race. It's going to be pretty interesting. And I mean, interesting as in terrifying, and there's a good chance. You either go slow or you're going to have a little meeting with the wall.
Roland into turn 1 now.
Looking good so far overall. Good attitude of the car.
Quickest in free practice 1 in here in Jakarta, and was quickest, I think, in one of the practice sessions in Berlin. Maybe even a couple of them. He was right at the front. Alexander Sims qualified really well for Mahindra in the first race. Roland picked up a strong 7th place in race 2. And his first sector here is less than a 10th away from Jake Dennis. Middle sector split comes just before the right-hander of 13. Onto the brakes. He's a quarter of a second down. But again, still could put him, well, he's already in 7th place. He has done a personal best in the middle sector, so if he can find time in the final sector, then might be able to jump up a few places.
Yeah, you can hear the tyres sliding around, though. Oliver Roland does not lack commitment, does he? Did a good job there. He managed to sort of square the corner off. Didn't try to carry the speed through the middle. Got better acceleration.
No improvement, though. A 10th slower than he managed previously, Oliver Roland, and remains in 7th position. Jake Dennis still at the top of the times.
And just like that, it's 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you haven't learned it by now, you might be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. Roland saying he got no rear grip going for 2 cool-down laps.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Again, information for qualifying, but you can't do that many cool-down laps because otherwise you'd be out of time.
Yeah.
Tyre change.
Sims across the line to go 12th quickest. As you say, tyre changes around the field. Nick de Vries. Out of the pits goes Sid in camera, out of the pits now goes de Vries, and here is Antonio Giovinazzi on a full power lap into turn 1. Through 2, tightening into 3. Switching back left around the mall, down towards turn 7. First sector split for Antonio Giovinazzi. He's only 2/10 away from Dennis. That's a reasonable first sector for the Italian.
It looks like he's not overdriving the car, shall we say. There's a lot of understeers through the middle of the corner. He's having to put a lot of lock in to get the car to turn. But he's not fighting the rear of the car so far. Let's see, when he gets to 13, does the front of the car dig in? Does he manage to turn? Yeah, very nice through 13 for Giovinazzi.
Still only 2/10 down on Dennis's time here, so this could be a pretty decent effort for Antonio Giovinazzi.
Neat and tidy, just driving the car within the grip level that is available to him.
No slides through 17, out through 18, up to the wall, across the line, and Antonio Giovinazzi, 5th quickest.
Nice.
That's very encouraging for the Dragon man. It's a couple of tenths quicker than his teammate Sergio Senecamera.
Antonio, excellent second and third sectors there. I saw you caught Degrassi there in sector 1, but overall very good.
That's awesome, Jake Pensky.
Yeah, giving in some feedback. Sam Bird, only a 10th down on Jake Dennis here, so Bird's got a chance of getting up towards the top 5 as he comes into 16.
He didn't turn in much. The car turned in for him, the rear sliding, but actually decent through 17 too. Just watch towards the end of the corner if he's had to correct, turn back to the left. No, really good out of 18 for Sam Bird and the Jaguar.
Only 7th
quickest.
2.5 minutes on the clock. Jake Dennis is quickest currently on a 1:08.253. Eduardo Mortara slots into 2nd place. Here's Mitch Evans in the Jaguar coming into turn 13. Robin Freitz keeps out of the way, and Evans is up here. Only by a couple of hundredths, but he is up on Jake Dennis's time. Dennis has just started another flying lap. Less than 3 minutes to go.
Maybe slightly offline with the traffic, even if the traffic gets out of your way. If you've got to go offline, if there's dirt on your tyres, that can ruin the lap. A bit of traffic ahead. Lucas Degrassi starting his lap. Mitch Evans coming to the line.
The Jaguar driver goes 2nd. 15 thousandths away from Jake Dennis, who is himself up on his previous best by 300ths now.
That's a good lap from Mitch Evans with the amount of traffic he had in this last sector.
Dennis into 16. Way back in trying to go.
Yeah, helped him rotate through the corner though.
Catches the right front. Scrappy through the final corner, right up to the wall. And does Dennis manage to improve? No. Lost quite a bit of time in those final couple of corners. Only maybe a 10th or so, but it's enough.
He knows that if he ties a lap together, it's all looking good. Robert Franks looks like he caught one of the Neos through the 9, 10, 11 sector, and that might have cost him time.
Dennis said that was a terrible lap on the radio afterwards. Franks has to lunge in on Askew. He's only 2 tenths down after the middle sector, but that will have cost him a decent amount of time. He's currently down in 22nd place, Robin Franks. Oh, and he's got traffic here from Degrassi too.
Yeah, Degrassi not helping at all. Probably couldn't see him in this. Oh, massively out of shape through 17, puts him offline for 18. Dirt on the tyres.
Well, there was some pace in there as he comes across the line and comes up into 20th place, but there was a lot of traffic. That was like downtown Jakarta.
Traffic is pretty bad here.
Yeah, it's really bad. On board with Sam Bird, which is part of the reason that Jakarta want a Formula E race here, to improve the governor was saying the other day, to improve the eco-friendly nature of the city and to improve the sustainability of the city. And traffic is a bad issue in Jakarta. Here comes Bird that we're on board with into the final corner. He's getting some traffic, and
DaCosta's on a lap. DaCosta 21st quickest right now, about 2.5 tenths up.
Vern's on a lap as well. Jean-Eric Vern's going quicker. The checker flag is ready. Mortara comes across the line. He goes 3rd quickest, but look at Jean-Eric Vern, 4 tenths up on Jake Dennis after the middle sector. DaCosta goes quickest, a 1:07.993. The Diaz to Cheetahs flexing in the final minutes of free practice 2. Vern through the final corner, out across the line. Diaz to Cheetah 1-2. 4 tenths, Vern ahead of DaCosta.
Yeah, that's a massive margin.
That was where DaCosta lost some time in the final sector, so that's why he was 2 tenths slower than Vern. Still, to go 2nd quickest with that huge moment is quite something.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack, and like you say, Diaz to Cheetah waiting till the end, and then there you go. 1-2.
No wonder they're all chuckling, having a bit of a laugh.
James Barkley looks very serious.
4th quickest for Mitch Evans, and I think everybody has completed their laps now.
If I'm sitting there as a driver right now thinking, if I'm Sam Bird, Mitch Evans, I'm thinking, if I can tie a lap together, Jake Dennis too, if I can do a clean lap, I've got a shot. I've got a shot not only getting in the duels, but a pole position too.
Neo ended up
Fabulous.
6th and 7th.
That's really good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what happens come qualifying a little bit later on. But Jean-Eric Verne is the driver who ends the session fastest. A 1 minute 7.594, 7/10 clear of another team. Jake Dennis in third, Evans in fourth. I mean, that's a... And qualifying hasn't actually been DS Techeetah's strength. Dan Tickton, 6th quickest in the end. And he was telling me yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before, doesn't matter, but he was saying that he's hoping that being a rookie, with everyone having a new track to learn, that could kind of play to his advantage a little bit. He backs himself as a driver who learns tracks quickly.
I think he does, absolutely. And I can tell you from experience, it's so much easier when you're on a level playing field. When you show up somewhere and you're racing against guys that have got 3, 4, 5 years experience on a circuit, it's so difficult, especially with an hour of practice.
Like you at Surfers Paradise.
Surfers Paradise.
Yeah. So some practice starts, some deciding not to take the practice starts, which is quite interesting.
I think the tyres are so out of the window that they're going to have on the start that, yeah, they maybe think it'll put us off. We know what we've got, we'll just deal with it.
The starts are fairly even these days as well, aren't they?
Again, because of the technology,
Yeah,
everybody's
exactly.
got the car and all the stuff that helps, but
And there's no need, you don't need to find a clutch bite point or anything like that.
yeah, especially with handle clutches, that's really difficult.
Yeah, I bet.
I always thought it was like eating dinner with your feet.
I've never tried eating my dinner with my feet.
Neither have I.
Oh, okay, fine. I thought that was going to be some kind of revelation.
I've never seen people try and go on the inside here.
Yeah.
You see how dusty and dirty it is, and otherwise it's going to come as a surprise on lap 1.
Here they come. As you see, they're both just slotting into that left-hand side, and then it kind of curves left a little, doesn't it, as well, on the run down to the first corner. Here comes Tickton. See, turning left to run with the wall on the outside, and then coming into the right-hander. Antonio Felix da Costa, second fastest, a 1 minute 7.993. I don't know how they know each other, but they appear to. Down at Mahindra. And a very, very strong start to the session, or start to the day, for DS Techeetah, because they Jean-Eric Verne was 5th quickest in free practice 1. DS Techeetah 1-2 in free practice 2. Jean-Eric Verne ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa. Jake Dennis 3rd, Mitch Evans 4th, Eduardo Mortara in 5th, and then Ticktum, Turvey, Verline, Giovinazzi and Van Dorn. So the two Neos and Giovinazzi all quite feel-good stories from that session. Sam Bird in 11th place, he got traffic on his second push lap. That's the reason he didn't actually improve on his second run. Nick Cassidy improved on the final lap to get up into 16th place, and Vision looked like they might be a little bit adrift, with Cassidy 16th, Freitz 21st. Okay, Freitz was only a couple of tenths down after the first sector before he then got traffic, but wasn't exactly setting the world alight. Oliver Askew for Avalanche Andretti down to the back, another rookie who you thought maybe it would favour coming into this weekend in Jakarta. Qualifying next. Tough to call.
Whoever puts a lap together has got a chance of getting into the duels here and getting on pole position. It's so close. You've got to put all 18 corners together.
Da Costa, certainly a popular gentleman, and he saying hi to everybody on his way past. He was with the Andretti team for a couple of seasons.
He's just a good guy.
He is. Andre Lotterer.
Nice headgear.
Yeah. Making his way back to the Porsche garage. Pascal Verline, 8th quickest. Went quickest earlier on, didn't he? But then slipped away, lost 3 tenths in the middle sector, 4 tenths in the final sector to Jean-Eric Verne. The DS Techeetahs look, that's fairly ominous, those laps, weren't they?
That was looking really good, really close, but they've just smashed it.
Yeah.
But I do think that, as I said, that they've got the ability to put a lap together to be right up there with them.
Evans 4th fastest for the Jaguar TCS racing team, also 4th in the championship standings, that double win in Rome launching him into contention. Dan Ticktum 6th quickest for Neo 333.
Always good when you go back to the garage, you look at the time sheet and your name's up there. Psychologically, nice to see.
And there is also Fan Boost to get involved with too. You can scan the QR code or head to fiaformulary.com/fanboost to vote for your favourite driver to get an additional burst of power in the second half of the E-Prix. Stoffel van Dorn winning it as ever. De Costa involved in there as well. De Vries, Byrne and Evans, the 5 drivers currently receiving that vote. Voted once per day, and voting closes once the race is underway. Van Dorn, De Costa, De Vries, Byrne and Evans, the driver with it at the moment. So, end of the second free practice session for the Jakarta E-Prix, the first ever Formula E race in Indonesia, the first single-seater motorsport race since 2006. And half of the gang wanted to get straight out on track. Antonio Felix da Costa locked up into turn 13, not for the first time today. Maybe not for the last. Mitch Evans ended the session 4th fastest as he was weaving his way through the traffic in the early stages, which was a real challenge. Nick De Vries diving out of the way at the final corner. There was also this moment as Freitz and Verne and Cassidy went 3 wide. Into turn 13. Pascal Wehrlein was quick in the early stages, went to the top of the times, and then the Neos went into 1st and 2nd. Dan Tickton ahead of his teammate Oliver Turvey. Freitz got some more traffic here behind Lucas de Grassi. Cost him lap time and meant he only finished the session 21st quickest. Jake Dennis was looking quick. He was at the top of the times going into the final few moments. Pit stop and tyre changes all round for some final runs. And despite this lockup, Antonio Felix da Costa finished 2nd quickest. And it was Jean-Eric Verne when the checker flag fell, who went 4/10 quicker than his teammate, 7/10 quicker than any other team. And Diaz Techeetah looking very, very strong for qualifying, which is coming up in just an hour's time. Oliver Turvey has grown a moustache this weekend, and to reflect that, the team have affixed a moustache to the screen outside the garage. But it's going to be tough. And there is Oliver Turvey, and we'll be back for qualifying in an hour.
Hello and welcome to Indonesia for round 9 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. We've officially reached the halfway point of the season, with Asia about to play host to qualifying at a brand new event. We're breaking new ground this weekend as the Formula E circus arrives in Jakarta for the very first time. New track, new location, and if you thought our fight for the World Championship was at boiling point, well, think again. We're about to turn up the heat, literally. It's hot, it's sweaty, and something tells me all our drivers in contention for this World Championship are well up for the fight.
This time it's my turn.
Hi everyone and welcome. This is the Jakarta E-Prix. We're excited. We're trying to stay cool. but it's impossible. Temperatures are through the roof, humidity is outrageous, but we're having a good time so far. This is qualifying at the brand new Jakarta E-Prix. It's exciting to be here. Jack Nicholls and Dario Franchitti.
It's a really, really cool new venue. Formula E's first ever race in Indonesia, the first single-seater motorsport race in Indonesia since 2006. So breaking new ground, brand new track, drivers are enjoying it. The championship is bubbling up nicely. Looking forward to this.
Dario, before we get into qualifying, let's talk about last time out in Berlin. It was literally a tidal wave of success for Mercedes.
Yeah, absolutely. Edo Mortara's win in the Rocket Venturi with Mercedes EQ powertrain and Nick de Vries, they seem to really dominate there. Those two teams sitting on top of the team's championship right now. Nick de Vries leading the Drivers' Championship too. So they had it all figured out. Whether they've got it figured out this weekend here in Jakarta today, that's a different story.
That's going to be the interesting part of it, I think, because it's such a circuit that nobody knows. Everybody knew Berlin. There have been 1.3 million races there since the start of Formula E. And so, as a result, everybody knows what they're doing. Whereas here, it's all brand new. So Stoffel van Dorn leading the championship, but he was only 16th quickest in free practice 1. A bit better in free practice 2, but there's a chance for other teams to come into the mix and into the fight.
The weather is going to play a massive part in today's qualifying and then the race. We've just had Jake Dennis come in, have a quick chat with us, and it was all about the tyres. It was all about tyre temperature, degradation, all the stuff that you would expect on a track which is so hot.
Well, apart from talking about his date the other day, but anyway, no, the asphalt is very black, new asphalt, the sun beating down on it, it puts the temperature through the roof of the asphalt, which then does the same to the tyres. As the tyre gets hot, it gets out of its comfort window, starts to slide around. As they slide around, they build more heat again, so it's the most vicious of vicious circles. Today's race, 45 minutes plus the lap, but it's going to be an endurance event, I think.
In photographs on social media from the official Formula E social media outlet, makes it look like a go-kart track, but it's not. It's not as tight as it looks.
No, it's really big and wide. It's not actually as tight as many Formula E circuits. And we're up here right by the beach in the north of Jakarta, up by Ancol, and it's a really cool place and a really cool track, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch the cars.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Very exciting, and as always, this new qualifying format is superb. It's separated the cream from the rest of the bottle of milk. All right, let's go over to Radzi, who's with Nick de Vries.
I'm indeed Vernon, the reigning world champion, Nick de Vries. Nick, we're here in Jakarta, but first of all, you must be delighted. Coming off the back of that fantastic win in Berlin, you're right back in contention now.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but we definitely needed that Berlin win to kind of put ourselves back in contention. Yeah, we had a bit of a tough ride in the last couple of races, but luckily Berlin, yeah, made us turn around again. Obviously here we're in a new event, new track. Temperatures are very hot, so I think everyone is challenged a lot by that, especially for tyres and battery. And yeah, it's going to be a challenging race for many different aspects. So I think you'll see a lot of excitement out there.
It's going to be exciting. You mentioned that it's new for all of us, but you've got a personal connection here, so it's amazing for you to be part of this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the welcoming from all the Indonesians and locals have been really, really kind and welcoming. So it's been very nice to be here, and it's a real pleasure. But obviously today we go racing, and that is all that matters.
So in which case you're the perfect person to ask, how do we deal with this heat and humidity? Have you got any tips for us?
Well, honestly, I would ask the real locals.
Because it really is a factor, isn't it, the conditioning in terms of the tyres and everything else that goes on with this?
Yeah, I mean, basically, when you go out of the pit lane, the tyres are already, you know, in the window, so everything is just too hot, basically, and it's the same for everyone, so everyone has to deal with the same problem, but it's definitely gonna, I think, involve or influence the race a lot.
Thanks so much for your time, and all the best for today. And Jack, it's safe to say, if this man performs anything like Berlin, it could be a special performance.
I found Oliver Rowland out the back of the Mahindra garage. Oliver, pace looks all right so far today. The quickest in free practice 1?
Yeah, quickest in free practice 1. Pretty competitive in free practice 2. We understood some things. Obviously, it's a new track for everybody, facing different challenges. You know, it's extremely hot here. It's actually quite bumpy as well in some places. So just trying to tune out a little bit of instability and also try and keep the tyres under control, which is going to be important even over one lap.
Yeah, so how does that work? What can you do over that one lap? Because you're going to do an out lap and then sort of start your flying lap. But in the group qualifying, it's a little bit different. And are you just going to go like as slow as possible on the out lap? Is that the only thing you can do?
Yeah, I mean, you have to get the brakes up to temperature as well, so you can only go as slow as possible without obviously having the brakes too cold. There's many things you can do with car setup or even driving. You know, you can kind of underdrive the first bit of the lap and then extract the most in the end part of the lap, or you can push in the beginning and hang on the end. So I think it's going to be quite interesting how different drivers approach different things. But yeah, we need to make a step, to be honest, in qualifying on the balance just to make sure it's perfect. But I have full confidence we'll do that.
Okay, and so far this season, what you started out well qualifying in Diriyah, but it's kind of slipped away a little. Have you found stuff with the car?
Yeah, the last 2 races have been better, you know. I mean, qualifying, I haven't been in the duels every race, but nearly, I think, all bar one race I've started in the top 10, so it's not been a disaster. I just always end up 5th and not 4th, but yeah, hopefully today we've been finding more and more confidence. It's taken a while for me to kind of settle in and understand exactly how everything works and even adapt them to me, so yeah, I'm looking forward to today and hoping that today's the day we can get back in the duels.
Cool. Best of luck.
Thank you.
It's interesting how different people are approaching the weather and the temperature. Let's take a look at Antonio Felix da Costa in the swimming pool at the back of their garage. The paddock's full of these little paddling pools where drivers are just chilling out, relaxing. Dario, you raced in the second hottest Indy 500 in history. From a driver's perspective, what have you got to do to try and stay cool?
You've got to keep your body cool, various ice vests and all that, but when the race starts, you've got to stay cool, but you've got to keep your mind cool, and that's so important today. Do not lose your temper, although every physical thing that's going on with you, you're going to want to.
And can you feel the heat beating down on you whilst you're driving?
Oh yeah, but the cooling air whistling by your head is going to be key.
All right, well, this is it. This is qualifying for the new Jakarta E-Prix. Jack.
The first ever qualifying session in Indonesia in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, the Jakarta E-Prix. There's a look at the circuit, ready to go. We're up in the northwest of Java Island and just by Jakarta Bay. And these are the drivers that will be first out in qualifying Group A. It's first, third, fifth, seventh, etc. The odd-placed drivers in the championship. So we'll see championship leader Stoffel van Dorn. We will see Jean-Eric Verne, Robin Freitz, Andre Lotterer. Now, those are the 4 drivers that, in theory, should be the ones to advance through to the duels, including Stoffel van Dorn, the championship leader. A lot of pole positions, 7 pole positions in his Formula E career for Stoffel van Dorn. He has had 2 pole positions already this season. And can he repeat that again today? But it's the same thing that we always say, Dario. If you don't get through to the duels, if you're not in the top 4 in your group, you don't get through to the duels, you're starting 9th or lower on the grid. You're in for a tough day.
You are in for a tough day, Jack, and it could be over as early as turn 1, because as wide as the entry is to turn 1 today, you're going to see 3, 4, 5 wide, I would say, on that first lap. And you're in that zone in the mid-pack where you can get hit from behind, or you can hit the car from behind. That's where the action tends to happen. So you want to obviously have as clean a lap as possible and start, and obviously start in the pole, but it could be critical today to the result you get, and actually just even get any points at all.
Sergio Sedicamera is headed straight out onto the circuit. We'll see some running in the first part of the group. You have to set a lap time in the first 6 minutes, and then you have to set a lap time in the second 6 minutes. And I imagine the end of the group will just be an out lap and just a push lap straight away. That's the only choice that these teams and drivers have because of the heat here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking to Jake Dennis before we came on air, and Vernon and I were talking, and he said, look, by the end of the lap, yeah, the tires are gone already. So your brain's telling you to go easy through the first couple of corners to keep tires under the car for the end of the lap. But drivers being drivers, racing drivers, they just go flat out and they just have to deal with the car sliding as it gets towards the end of the lap.
And I think because, well, I don't know, I'm at wonder because there's so little practice. You can't sort of, the fans are applauding Sergio Sedicamera as he comes through. You almost can't practice that going, because you get so few runs in it and so few practice laps. You can't almost get into a window of knowing how much to underdrive in the first half of the lap, or is that incorrect?
I think any time, if you've done 2 laps, I think it gives you a good reference point.
Right.
The 2 clear laps, it gives you a good reference point, and then you can then decide, oh yeah, overdid it here, underdid it there. And you talk with your engineers about it, and that's where experience comes into play, I would say, in any formula of racing. As you see, Sergio Sedicamera, that's through turn 2 into 3 already. You hear the back of the car sliding all the way through the corner. Tight to those through turn 4 and 5. Just watch how bumpy it is in the braking zone to 6, a curved braking zone. Early turn in, different surface change just there. Coming through 9, this is turn 9 now, then it goes into 10, 11, 12, one corner after the other. And you've got to sacrifice a little bit in the corner before to get through the next one, because if you keep the car positioned correctly for the next corner you're coming to. Braking for turn 13. Sergio Safety Camera looks like he's slowed it down.
So Sede Camera has backed out of this one.
That's the hairpin in turn 13, Jack.
Oliver Askew, Gunter and Buemi have left the pits now with 9 minutes to go.
This is the point where you don't want to get out of sequence with anybody else, because you don't want to be on your push lap when everybody else is warming up or finishing their lap, because they'll be trying to get out of your way because they don't want an interference penalty. Doesn't mean to say they're not going to get in your way. And look, there's rush hour. Sergio Safety Camera just came out of the last corner as well, so he's now going to have to deal with all this traffic ahead of him. And I don't think that was in his plan. I think his plan was to do that first lap, but it sounds like, I would say, the tyres weren't in their operating window, so he aborted. You see Oliver Askew coming through. This is turn 17 now towards the end of the lap. He's going to take an odd line through 18 to accelerate as straight as possible off 18 and start his lap with the maximum speed across the start line.
So Oliver Askew in the Andretti comes across the line now, down towards the first corner. Hasn't made the duels yet so far this season. In fact, his best qualifying performance was 12th in the third race of the season in Mexico. He's very wide coming out of 1.
Yeah, carried a bit too much speed through the middle of the corner and tried to open it up, but he's already struggling there. And Oliver Askew, rookie this season, let's not forget that. He's all these tracks. This one is new for everybody, but every other track has been new for him, and he's just learning to understand, having done a couple of seasons in IndyCar, learning to understand how to get the most out of a Formula E car.
Less than 8 minutes to go. Sounded squealy, didn't it, on the tyres as he now comes into the middle sector. He will go quickest because he's going to be the first driver to set a lap time. That's why he's 1.3 seconds up. But the car doesn't look great, does it, as he comes through the hairpin at 13, now into turn 16.
You've got to try and keep the tyre inside its slip angle the whole way around the corner, but it's knowing which part of the corner to put the speed, to carry the speed, and he's got some traffic now. Car in front, one of the Dragon Penske cars held them up just a little bit.
Yeah, with Sede Camera, Askew goes to the top of the times, but won't be there for long, I wouldn't have thought, because there are plenty of drivers going quicker. Here's Max Gunter in the Nissan now, coming into the final corners at turn 16 now, and then into 17 and 18.
He's 6/10 up at the moment. Not going too wide through 17 because you've got to prepare for 18. This last corner, it's so tricky. All the drivers really struggling to get the power down, not miss the corner on the way in and get the power down on the way out. Max Gunter, P1, a 1:09.5.
Sebastian Buemi beats him on a 1 minute 9.4, 8.7, 800ths of a second faster. Freitz and Lotterer are still pushing, and this is Van Dorn out of the final turn and across the line, and Van Dorn now goes to the top on a 1 minute 9.354. Then is Jake Dennis, and he does quicker, a 1 minute 9.121. Nick Cassidy goes into second place. Then Jean-Eric Verne goes into second place. The Diaz Cheetahs were rapid in the first part of the lap, but there is a yellow flag at turn 16, so some of these drivers will have to have backed off a little in the final sector, and I think it's Robin Freitz, because he's the only driver that hasn't come through the final sector yet. Here he comes back into the pits. Rear left, maybe, a bit of damage. Is the steering wheel straight?
It's not bad, yeah. Let's see what happens.
Here he comes, way there he goes into 7, big lockup.
So yeah, that's earlier in the lap. But this is still turn 7. Replay hits the bumps, dances around, catches it. Great car control from Robin Freitz. Sliding around a bit, but it looks like there's a bit of...
Is there a bit of advertising or something in the back?
Stuck to the...
And he's looking in the rear left mirror,
yeah,
and he hasn't set a lap time in this first 6 minutes as well.
This all points to maybe coming out of turn 13.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just trying to...
Odd one, though. Unless it was out maybe earlier in the lap.
Or offline into 7 and then hits the wall into... Oh, no, because he was only 3/10 down after the middle sector, so yeah, exit of 13.
We are
I think
totally
would be my
guessing
guess.
right now.
Yeah, I know, but it's fun, isn't it? Exit of 13 would be my guess.
Not if you're Robin Freins, but yeah, everybody else back into the pits. A traffic jam in the pits now.
Yeah, Lucas de Grassi returning. So after the first runs, Dennis, Vern, Cassidy and Van Dorn would be the drivers that would be going through, so it would be a bit of a surprise to see de Grassi and Lotterer remain there. Van Dorn right on the bubble in 4th place.
And Lotterer made every duel.
It's over, and you can go please to wait yourself.
Oof.
So Bertrand Vermeen telling Freins it's over. And that's really bad news for the championship, for Robin Freins, because he is 5th in the standings, about 30 points adrift, but not completely out of it if he had a good result today. He's not getting a good result today, because he'll be starting at the back of the grid.
Yeah, and
he can come through and get some points, but
yeah,
maybe.
I think today, actually, as hot as it's going to be with all the tyre wear issues, the battery temperature issues that we're expecting, I think any result's possible from the back of the grid. I think it's going to be one of those old school Formula E races today.
See what Freins looks at here. He goes and looks at the back of the car, and it is the rear left that he's looking at, isn't it? So,
love to see the rear left.
Here we go. Is this going to be it here? Through
6.
That's him slowing down, but there's already debris on the.
Did he catch
the thing, isn't it?
Maybe caught the apex of 16.
I think exit of 13, but anyway.
We'll soon find out.
Yeah. But it's because he didn't do a lap time that he's out of the session as well. You've got to do one in those first minutes, so the damage may not be too bad, but because he didn't do a lap time, that's why the team is saying it's over. So we'll get to the bottom of that. But Sede Camera is out on track now in the Dragon.
Yeah, early again, so he risks having that same problem that he had with traffic. 2 minutes 40 to go. Is he going to do a preparation lap? 2:40.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's this is interesting stuff from Sede Camera, because he's weaving around at quite a low speed, which is presumably to get heat into the tyres, but that's what most of the teams and drivers seem to be trying to avoid. Speaking to Oliver Rowland before the race, or before the session, he was saying, yeah, you want to go as slowly as possible, but you've got to get heat into the brakes, and that's the difficult part. Getting heat into the tyres ain't tricky today.
I was going to say, just pull it out the garage.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished, but yeah, it's definitely a tightrope that they're walking. And each team will have their own theory on how to maximise performance of the tyre.
Right, everybody else heading out onto the track. Van Dorn, the championship leader. Jean-Eric Verne, 3rd in the standings in the 25 black and gold DS Techeetah. As they come into turn 1 on their out laps, Sergio Sede Camera is worried about catching the rest of the pack on the radio. Roger Griffiths is the boss at Avalanche Andretti, which has Oliver Askew in 10th and Jake Dennis in 1st. And there is Gunter coming through 16. And getting ready now to fire it up. They're all at 220 kilowatts of power here as Gunter comes out across the line and tries to advance through to the group stages. Neither Nissan has made it through to the groups so far this season. Gunter has had 2 10th places. Buemi had a 10th place in the first race in Berlin. Gunter throwing it into 2 and 3.
Oh, the road out of turn 1, and that immediately goes straight into turn 2. The line's changed a bit as the speeds have picked up. Catching the oversteer at 4. King can 5, 6. Braking for 7. The car dancing. Quite a late turn-in point.
Only 500ths down in sector 1 on Jake Dennis's time. Sergio Sede Camera is a similar margin down in the first sector.
Max Gunter, though, slow to the power out of turn 8. Let's see if that's reflected in the split, which comes up now. No, still right there. Car sliding through the apex, missed the apex of 13 just a little bit. Trying to pick out his braking point of turn 16.
Sede Camera's 100th up after the middle sector. Buemi and Gunter are lapping very similarly. Gunter now into turn 18.
Just all the road through 17, has that compromised turn 18 though, nice and neat. Oh, no, he hit the wall.
Comes out across the line, and Gunter goes third for the moment, but Sete Camara's going quicker than him. Vern's going a bit quicker. Dennis isn't really improving. The lap times are going to tumble now. Sete Camara comes through, and he remains in 6th place. Here's Buemi now, out of the final corner. Dennis is improving in the middle sector. Vern is improving. De Grassi is improving. Buemi goes quickest.
Top of the charts.
1 minute 9.0, but the drivers behind are still going quickly. Here's Jean-Eric Vern. Championship leader Stoffel Van Dorn is only 800ths up on Buemi, so Van Dorn is going to be really close here. Jake Dennis through the final turn. Onto the power and towards the line. Does he get ahead of Buemi? He does. A 1 minute 8.988, a 10th clear of Buemi. Now here comes Stoffel Van Dorn. He goes quicker than Dennis. That should put Van Dorn through. Vern should be through as well in 2nd place. Here comes Cassidy. He goes 5th. Lucas de Grassi is 5th. De Grassi doesn't make it through. And Andre Lotterer, for the first time, doesn't advance through to the qualifying duels in the 36 white and black Porsche. Van Dorn, Vern, Dennis and Buemi get into the qualifying duels the first time this season for Sebastian Buemi. Disappointment for Venturi and for Envision. But good news for the championship leader Stoffel Van Dorn, through and fastest. So, Lotterer 5th quickest, De Grassi 6th, Cassidy 7th, Gunter 8th, 9th for Sete Camara, 10th for Askew, and 11th for Robin Freitz in that session. Here's Van Dorn's radio.
The track is just gradually improving at the moment, so I do expect them to go a bit quicker. It's yeah.
Okay, that's Stoffel Van Dorn saying he expects the other group to go a bit quicker because the track is gradually improving. So here's a look at the first qualifying group in the bag. Stoffel Van Dorn, Jean-Eric Vern, Jake Dennis and Sebastian Buemi, the 4 drivers advancing to the duels. Here's a look at Max Gunter coming into the final corner again at turn 18 and just tapping the wall on the exit. I wasn't quite sure if it had broken the rear. No, I think is it pointing a little in now?
Yeah, he hit it quite square.
Yeah.
It's not got enough help, to put it that way.
Yeah, that's very true. So, those 4 advancing through. Bad news for Freitz. Not great news for De Grassi, but he's not really in the championship hunt. And Lotterer as well. First time not making it through to the duels this season. 5th, so he was right there, but just not there enough. Qualifying Group B about to get underway. We've got the 2nd, 4th, 6th drivers in the championship. So the ones to keep an eye on really are just Eduardo Mortara and Mitch Evans as far as the overall championship fight is concerned. But De Vries is in form. Verline's won a race this season. Da Costa and Bird want to get some race wins under their belt. Roland, Turvey, Sims, Ticktum and Giovinazzi, the other drivers heading out there. And we saw earlier on how difficult traffic can be. Nick De Vries for the Mercedes EQ squad, and Antonio Felix da Costa for DS Techeetah had a little bit of a moment on the circuit. Qualifying, in qualifying it shouldn't be quite as bad, but there was this dramatic moment in free practice 1 where da Costa sort of got out of the way, or De Vries half got out of the way, but half didn't. And I don't think da Costa was particularly impressed with that moment.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get out of the way, but kind of actually made things worse. But then this next bit was interesting. They just kind of drive alongside, going slowly, and not particularly happy with each other at that point.
So da Costa and De Vries out in the same qualifying group now. And there is the Portuguese racer whose best result this year is 4th place in Mexico City. He has been in the duels 5 times so far this year. Only missed out 3 times. Qualifying Group B underway. 12 minutes on the clock. You've got to do a lap in the first 6 and a lap in the second 6. And these are the drivers that will be heading out there. Both of the Jaguars are going to be in this session, so that's going to be a bit of a stressful one. A lot of British drivers as well. Bird, Rowland, Turvey, Sims and Tictum, with Dennis already through into the duels. Look at downtown Jakarta, about 20 minutes or so south of here.
Is that a bit of rain? Could be interesting.
Nick de Vries getting ready to go out. A win here. And he does have an outside shot at the championship. He's a bit too far away right now. Yeah, but if he continues to form, yeah, exactly.
You know, this is the opportunity for those type of guys, that Antonio Felix da Costa, Nick de Vries, to get back into the championship fight. It just takes one mistake from those guys up front. Edo Mortara, he qualifies badly today. Yeah, it's an opportunity to get back into the fight.
We also saw flashes of pace from Neo earlier on. Neo 333 were, I think, 6th and 7th in free practice 2 with Dan Tictum ahead of Oliver Turvey. Now, their best qualifying this season has been 14th with Turvey in Berlin, so that'll be impressive if they can get up sort of into that top 10 region. Would be a really impressive achievement. Mitch Evans looking to get through to the duels. Like I say, Mortara and Evans are the big 2 in this session, because Mortara is 2nd in the championship and only 12 points away from the championship leader, Stoffel van Dorn. And eyes closed for Mortara.
Just visualising the lap, just what he's got to do here. He's got the information from his practice runs, where the grip is, what he thinks he has to do a little bit differently, where he thinks he can brake a bit later or get to the throttle a bit earlier. And now he's ready to go. Visor down. Giovinazzi's out on track. Oliver Turvey headed out too. This is that one, you've got to tie the lap together. It's one thing having the possibility, the potential to do a lap. You've got to get it right. 18 turns, you've got to absolutely get every one of them spot on.
So Dragon doing a similar thing here that they did with Sette Camera, sending out Giovinazzi pretty early. Roland's gone out last, but yeah, Giovinazzi sort of out of sequence here with the rest of the gang. Here he comes, and everybody's in front of him basically, so they're all going to need to keep out of Giovinazzi's way. We'll see what the Italian can do. He actually was a good news story as well. What was the 8th quickest, I think, in that second practice session?
9th quickest.
9th quickest, which for Giovinazzi's not too bad, and he's through turns 1, 2, 3.
I mean, this is madness. This puts him in such a difficult position, because he's got to weave his way through traffic while keeping his foot down, and it's easier said than done. First sector 20.2, it's 2/10 off the quickest sector from Group 1. Nice and neat out of there though.
Now down into 13.
More traffic ahead though, and these guys are thinking about starting their lap now. Mitch Evans getting out of the way in the Jaguar.
Now into, and he's backed off Giovinazzi. But also, we did see Sette Camera do it similarly, didn't we? Turvey's locked up there, I think, into the first corner, and he's starting a lap now in the Neo.
The Neo mechanically looked very strong this morning. When Oliver Turvey got to the end of his lap, the car had a lot of grip. It wasn't sliding over the surface. He drove very well to get to the limit of the tyre and not drive over the limit of the tyre, which is easier said than done, because everything you do, you try to push, but that sometimes is not rewarded. A bit wide though, out of turn 9.
Three 600s up in the first sector. Turvey 2/10 down on Giovinazzi. We're with Nick de Vries as we come into 11, then into 12, now down into 13, and compared to Giovinazzi, de Vries is 4/10 up. A bit wide at 13.
Yeah, just you can see the car start to slide across the surface at the end of the braking zone.
It's Verline and Bird who are both going quicker than De Vries on this lap so far. Turvey out of the final corner in the Neo, and he goes a 1 minute 10.0, the first meaningful lap time of the session. And now here,
second off, Jack.
Yeah, here comes De Vries, a 1 minute 9.4, goes half a second quicker than Turvey. Verline now goes quicker, a 1 minute 9.0. Lost 3/10 in the final sector, actually, did De Vries, compared to Verline. Bird slots into second place. Dan Ticktum goes fourth fastest. De Costa is going quicker than everyone at the moment. Here comes Mitch Evans in the other Jaguar. Sims goes into fifth. Evans now jumps up into second place. Keep your eyes peeled here for De Costa, fastest, a 1 minute 8.715, and Mortara slots into second place, and Roland slots into fourth position. So De Costa, Mortara, Verline and Roland, the drivers that will advance at the moment, but everyone's got one more run to go.
That's a good first lap from Da Costa. 108.7, 108.8 was the quickest in the last group, so that allows him a little bit of breathing room. He can just push a little bit harder, knowing that he's got a really strong banker lap in his first run.
Less than 6 minutes to go. Da Costa, Mortara, Verline and Roland, the drivers that would make it through at the moment. That would be bad news for Mitch Evans, although he won from 9th on the grid in Rome, and that may be where he would start. But the two Jaguars in 5th and 6th places said earlier on to me, Evans, he just doesn't, they don't really know where they are. They're really struggling to get a read on the circuit and the competitive order. And at the moment, they are 5th and 6th, although Evans has got the best qualifying versus his teammate in the field. He's out-qualified Bird 7 times in 8 races, and no one else has got a record that strong. We've got a few 6.2s with Freintz and Degrassi and the like. Let's head down to Radzi while we wait for the next runs.
Well, I'm currently joined by Sylvain Filippi. Not the perfect situation, obviously, as team principal for Envision. The nightmare scenario for Robin Freintz, not managing to set a lap time. What did you put that down to?
Well, I think, to be honest, our pace was not great today, like from free practice 1, P2. We are struggling with the tires. Our car seems to be harder on the tires than most other cars. It can be down to so many different things. So, yeah, despite our best efforts, we are not far, but not quite there, you know. And being 2-3 tenths behind in Formula E is the difference between the front and the back, you know. So, yeah, unfortunate for Robin to hit the wall. But to be fair, we had to take a lot of risk and push hard to try to get there. So, yeah, a tricky day for us. We need to understand why our car is so hard on the tires.
Must be incredibly frustrating. Speaking to you in Berlin around this time, you were saying quite a similar thing, but Robin managed to overcome something and get points from it.
Yeah, here's the other way around though. Berlin was really cold and you needed to put the tires in temperature. Here our tires are gone before we even start the push lap, which other teams don't seem so affected by it. They are, but not as much. So anyway, maybe it's maybe we'll be better at the tracks we are more familiar with and we know we are fast at. But yeah, disappointing morning for us. Yeah.
Good luck for later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Sylvain Filippi there, confirming that Robin Freintz hit the wall, presumably on the exit of 13. Meanwhile, in qualifying Group B, everybody is in the pits, waiting to head out. Nick De Vries, Indonesian grandfather, very popular man here, drove the Formula E show car around the national monument, the Monas, earlier on this weekend. Little through the legs from the mechanic. I like that. Did you see that little nutmegged himself? Cool. That was great. Eduardo Mortara, though, second in the championship. The last 2 pole positions have been Eduardo Mortara's.
You see they didn't put the tires on and sit the car with the tires on because the heat from the brakes would bleed up in through the wheel and onto the tire and get temperature in them already. Keep them as cool as they possibly can for this final qualifying attempt, group qualifying, to try and stay in contention for the duels in a minute.
Out goes the dry ice.
That dry ice would be quite nice right about now.
Yeah.
Where am I?
Yeah.
There is no.
Roland.
This man's not though.
No, he's not. Nick De Vries, 7th at the moment. Race winner last time out in Berlin. Reigning champion. Felt like a relief to him winning in Berlin after such a difficult few races. He said it felt good to be back. When I spoke to him yesterday,
For that difference between success and failure just being so minuscule.
Yeah. Right.
Oh. Rush hour. Jakarta.
Here we go then, both Mahindras out. Sims is the first man in the queue. Back of the queue is Sam Eduardo Mortara is the last man on track. No, he's not. There comes Antonio Giovinazzi. No, he's not. There comes Dan Ticktum. Is that it? Yeah, that's it now. So Ticktum is the last man in the queue. A minute and a half to go. And like I say, the big ones here really, Mortara and Evans, as far as the championship is concerned.
And as slow as they're going, these guys on the warm-up lap, the problem that Ticktum has got is he might not make it to start his lap. I think it's close. And you're going to make it, he might have to push harder than he wants and overheat the tyres before his lap's even started.
Verline there in the Porsche. Turvey, the black and gold DS Cheetah, Antonio Felix da Costa, who's got Evans and Bird right behind him. Still got a minute left, and it's only half a minute or so through this final sector, so those guys should be okay. Ticktum has dropped quite a way off the back of the group ahead. Here comes Alexander Sims. Here's De Vries's radio.
Hold position now.
De Vries being
Do not
told.
let the cars behind go ahead.
Exactly.
Hold position.
Don't let anyone pass you.
18-second margin.
He's got an 18-second margin though, so they're reasonable.
It's easier for the engineer to say, isn't it?
Yeah. So, Mortara and Evans, the two that really need to get through to the duels to keep their championship hopes alive. Here comes Roland down towards the first corner. Verline following him with his dramatic weave of the bumps.
Yeah, trying to avoid those bumps. You hear the car under the bridge hitting.
It's going to be tight here for Dan Ticktum. The timing line is halfway down. Is anybody going to miss out? Giovinazzi gets going. Here comes Ticktum. It's going to be very tight. And does he make it? No. Takes the checkered flag. Real shame for the Neo team. We'll get into that a little bit later on, but now it's going to be those who have started a lap are going to start setting middle sectors and first sectors. Evans has done the quickest first sector of anyone. Alexander Sims is coming down to the hairpin. Mortara's done a good sector one. Sims is 1.1 seconds away. Oliver Rowland, meanwhile, is a quarter of a second away. So I don't think the Mahindras are going to be making it through this time. Here is Pascal Verline. He's a quarter of a second away as well. No one's really lighting up the timing screens here or getting close to Da Costa. Da Costa's done a personal best in the middle sector. Here comes Verline into the final corner. Gets on the power in the Porsche. Rowland will cut the line in front of him. He remains in fourth place, doesn't improve. Verline goes up into second position. Evans needs to find time, and he is finding time. Here he comes, out of the final corner, the Jaguar driver. Da Costa doesn't improve. Evans gets into fourth place. Is that going to be enough? Bird comes across the line and he's sixth. Can Nick De Vries push Evans out? No. So Evans is through, Mortara is through. The two title protagonists advance through to the duels, but Nick De Vries for Mercedes EQ does not. Da Costa quickest for DS Cheetah by 1,000th of a second.
1,000th of a second. It's incredible how close it is. There's some heavy hitters in that sort of 10th, 11th area on the grid. Just missed out on going through to the duels.
It's now 8-1 in qualifying for Evans over Bird. A real shame that Ticktum couldn't get his lap in.
Sam Bird, though, only a 10th off his teammate Mitch Evans there. It just shows how close it is, the difference between getting into the duels and not.
Yeah.
Giovinazzi didn't set a lap.
No. Albert Lau, De Vries' engineer, and good to be back, said De Vries after the race in Berlin, but he's kind of back to where he was before he was back.
Yeah, for him.
With that qualifying performance, although...
Turn one is key to me, Jack.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, De Vries was always kind of qualifying okay and getting through to the groups, but you saw Albi Lau gutted with that. Da Costa, Mortara, Verline and Evans, the four drivers that advance through to the duels. De Vries out, Roland out, Bird, Turvey, Ticktum, Sims and Giovinazzi out as well. There is the national monument with the flame on the top. That is Monas. And apparently Albert Lau on the radio is taking the blame for that issue, or for that lack of progression for Nick de Vries, which is an interesting one. Fans in the grandstands this morning here in Jakarta, watching their first ever Formula E race, and they've got little Formula E fans.
The fans have got fans.
The fans have got fans. Very good. So, Van Dorn, Mortara, Vernon Evans, the top 4 in the championship, all through to the duels. So that's sort of, I mean, it's not job done by any stretch, but that's a huge stress of their day taken away by just getting through to the duels and guaranteeing you're going to be on the first 4 rows of the grid.
Absolutely right. And Lucas de Grassi, I think it was Monaco, said to me, he said, look, this championship, one lap, that one lap in qualifying can ruin, if you get it right or get it wrong, can ruin your whole weekend. And yeah, it's not wrong.
Reese back into the garage. 5th quickest. So he'll be starting 9th or 10th on the grid.
300th of a second, that's what he missed by.
Yeah. Gonna go and get Wade. That's the message. So here we go then, into the duels. And this is how it will work. Evans will face Van Dorn. Verline will face Vern. Dennis will face Mortara. And Buemi, in his first appearance in the duels, will be up against Antonio Felix da Costa. And that's, even though Evans is 4th in the championship, this is only his 3rd appearance in the duels, which is quite remarkable. But a very frustrated Nick de Vries making his way down to the FIA garage. That's where he's going basically to get Wade, which is at the entry to the pit lane. Evans getting ready to head out in the first of the duels. The Jaguar driver will be facing Stoffel Van Dorn in the Mercedes EQ as he looks for another pole. The first duel about to get underway, the first quarter-final in qualifying for round 9 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, the Jakarta E-Prix. Before we get underway, we'll head down to Radzi.
It's me, Vernon, and this is James Barclay, the man in charge of the Jaguar team. Mitch keeping his championship fight alive. 4th and 7th for your boys. A 10th of a second separated the two. Just goes to show you how tight Formula E is.
Yeah, it's incredibly close today, Vernon. I mean, the track conditions, the track is evolving all the time as well, very quickly. So yeah, Sam incredibly close to not making it through. It's a real shame because, you know, he just missed out. But good luck from Mitch. Maybe a little error in the final corner. Otherwise, we might have been a little bit higher up. But we got through. That's the main thing.
I feel really guilty because Mitch has just gone out and you're stood here. You should be in there. Go on, James. Off you go. We'll let you get it back. There you go, James Barclay, the man in charge of the Jaguar team. And, of course, Mitch Evans.
Thank you, Vernon. Apologies. And we'll see what Evans can do up against Stoffel Van Dorn. There's a bit of some of the fan village. It's plenty of action going on in the Allianz E village. And the grandstands all the way around the track as the cars get ready to head out onto the circuit in this new format of qualifying that has been very, very popular indeed. Really looking forward to this one. The qualifying in the last race in Berlin was tremendous. And quarter-final 1 is Mitch Evans for Jaguar TCS Racing against Stoffel Van Dorn for Mercedes EQ.
I love qualifying. I love going flat out. New qualifying format is really exciting. Let's see who comes out on top.
I'm fast because I'm in the zone, I'm focused, and I'm talented.
And that's Van Dorn's view. He will be chasing Evans around. They won't start the lap at exactly the same time. They will be staggered, about 10 seconds or so apart. And out goes Evans now, onto the circuit. And the duels begin. And this is, the semi-finals are always a big one as well, because you can be 8th or pole, depending on whether you win or lose your quarterfinal. And also, you can be 8th or 5th, depending on how slowly you lose your quarterfinal.
Yeah. And again, the margins are tiny, but think about this is now they're running at 250 kilowatts of power. They've got a 13% increase in power than they had in the group qualifying. The track's going to feel completely different. It's going to look different. The way you take the corners is going to be different. Where you brake is different. And you're going to be approaching the corners a lot quicker. So these guys have done some practice this morning at 250, but not in these track conditions. So they've got to adapt very, very quickly.
Van Doorn's tyres, having been out in Group A, will be probably a bit cooler than Mitch Evans is in Group B, so that could play into Van Doorn's advantage a little bit. As they come up towards the final couple of corners. It'll be Evans across the line first, followed by Stoffel Van Doorn. A place in the semi-finals up for grabs as Ian James, the team principal of Mercedes EQ, watches on, as does James Barkley at Jaguar TCS Racing, as we come down towards the first corner. And Van Doorn throws it into the right-hander.
Didn't use quite as much road as we've seen others do. Neat and tidy.
Oh,
Evans is down at turn 7.
Yeah, Van Doorn's 4 tenths down on Evans already, just after the first corner. So it didn't look too bad from Van Doorn from what we saw, but he's lost 4 tenths of a second to Evans.
Whoa! But if Mitch Evans does that, it's going to give Stoffel a big chance to catch that gap up.
Yeah, that was a big twitch coming through turn 12. The gap extends, though, to almost half a second. Here comes Van Doorn. Gap comes down a little now to under 4 tenths. That was where Evans made the error. Here he comes now into the final corner, out across the line. Evans sets the benchmark of a 1 minute 8.935. Van Doorn's closing a little more, 3 tenths of a second between them. Into the final corner, really up towards the wall there, Stoffel Van Doorn. But it's not enough for the championship leader. Eliminated in the quarterfinal.
Looked like it was all the first corner, Jack.
Yeah.
Gone. I mean, I don't know if he made a big mistake. It didn't look like it. It looked like he maybe didn't use all the road.
But 4 tenths was a huge amount, yeah. So, Stoffel Van Doorn out. Evans goes through to the semi-finals, and that's going to be good or big in the championship challenge. Verline up against Verne next. Tagore Porsche versus DS de Cheetah. Verline has beaten Verne already once in the duels this season. And here comes Verline into the final corner. Yeah, I didn't really get across to you how important that was in terms of the championship as well, because Evans is 4th in the standings, Van Doorn is 1st, so those two going head-to-head was very interesting. Here comes Verline now across the line. He is 8th in the championship, and he is up against Jean-Eric Verne in the DS de Cheetah, who has looked incredibly quick over the course of the session so far, as Verline leans on the car all the way around turns 1, then into 2, then into 3, and here comes Verne down towards the first corner. So keep your eyes on the gaps between them after turn 1, who is going to have the advantage. Oh, it's right together. 200ths, Verline has the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, Verne was so fast this morning in free practice too, but he's got to put the lap together right now. That's the only one that counts.
800ths up now.
God, the car was bouncing over those bumps. Bit of sideways in turn 7. Did that cost him any time though?
Big lock up from Verline coming into 13.
Yeah, it looked like he was a bit offline, and as you can see, if you go offline, it gets really slippery, but Verline at the moment, 800ths ahead.
He's got the advantage back, still less than a tenth of a second between them. The gap goes up a tiny bit more to almost a tenth. Verline really leaning on it, coming through turn 17, out through the final corner. Verne has now got ahead. by 800ths of a second. Verline's benchmark time, a 1 minute 9.029. Vern is ahead though, but he's fighting the car. There's only 100th between them. Into the final corner. It's neat and tidy from Vern on the exit, just a little correction as he drives to the line. It's Vern, a 10th of a second. Team principal Thomas Chevauchet delighted with that. And Vern advances to the semi-finals to face Mitch Evans. It's a 1 minute 9.029 for Verline, which is quicker than Stoffel Van Dorn managed. So Verline will be ahead of Van Dorn on the grid. That was a close one.
That was fantastic, and you could see the end of the lap, the car sliding around.
Jake Dennis for Avalanche Andretti up against Eduardo Mortara for Rocket Venturi Racing in the third quarter-final here in Jakarta.
My favourite thing about the duel is really the head-to-head competition, you know, not knowing what the other driver is doing during the lap. So you don't know if he's made a mistake or he's on the best lap of his life. You never know.
Qualifications are not different than the races. We have to handle the pressures in the best way we can.
So, Eduardo Mortara, as we see Stephen Lane, the engineer for Stoffel Van Dorn, sending his car out onto the track. And here is Mortara. Down at the first corner. And Mortara is ahead by about 700ths after the first corner. Dennis is ahead of him on the road. Really fighting it, Mortara, isn't he? Well, what's the gap going to be? It goes up a little more to 700ths of a second. Mortara, every time he's made it through to the duels, has made it through to the final. Dennis's best qualifying result so far this season. He's won second on the grid twice in both Diriyah and in Rome.
Mortara extends that advantage to nearly 0.2 of a second. Jake Dennis coming up to the last corner now.
It's closing in.
Oh, he narrows it up.
Oh, right at the wall on the exit of the final corner. Dennis's time is an 8.6. That's a very quick lap, but Mortara is going quicker still by a 10.5. Coming into the final turn, this is where Dennis looked pretty strong, and the gap is now less than a 10th of a second. Mortara turns in. Bit of a slide towards the line. It's going to be tight. Mortara by 0.2 of a second. But a very quick lap from both of them. Dennis eliminated, but comfortably the quickest of the eliminated drivers.
8.4 for Mortara. I mean, you got to feel bad for Jake Dennis. He's second quickest of anybody, and he's out. But that's the nature of the duels.
Yeah, absolutely. But Dennis will be at worst 6th on the grid for the E-Prix later on today. Could be 5th, depending on who wins and who loses out of Sebastian Buemi for Nissan Edams and Antonio Felix da Costa for DS Techeetah. Now, Sebastian Buemi holds the record with Jean-Eric Vergne for the most pole positions in Formula E history, but this is his first ever appearance in the qualifying duels. Here comes the Swiss, down towards turn 1.
Pick out that braking point, carry as much speed as you possibly can through 1, and then immediately into 2. There's just no straight there. Now braking, settling the car down, keep a tight line through 3. Antonio Felix da Costa coming down over those bumps into 1. So quick in free practice too.
Is he quick through turn 1? He is, but only 600ths up on Buemi. Buemi is now coming into turns 11 and 12. Da Costa's advantage still 600. It goes up a bit now to over a 10th of a second. Da Costa, I think you could say, has to be the favourite for this one because of the pace he had earlier. Buemi's wide.
Yeah, he was wide. You heard he had to get off the throttle. He went back to throttle, came off, and that's going to kill his lap.
Yeah, Da Costa is 0.2 up at the moment, but he's going to gain a lot of time here at the hairpin if he gets it stopped and through turn 13 neatly, which he manages to do. It's 0.2 here. Buemi's heading towards the line, but watch it jump up now. There, 0.6 of a second, and Buemi gesticulates. He knows he made that mistake, and it should be neat and tidy now for Da Costa into the final corner. He's 0.7 of a second ahead on the power, and then out towards the line. And it'll be Mortara versus Da Costa in the semi-finals.
1 agree. The track continues to get quicker.
That lap time for Buemi was not terrible. So Dennis will be 5th on the grid. 6th on the grid will be Pascal Wehrlein. 7th will be Sebastian Buemi. 8th on the grid will be the championship leader, Stoffel van Doorn. Very, very interesting grid once again that we're going to get delivered here as Jean-Eric Verne waits for his semi-final.
That was the quickest time so far on the first duel.
Quickest time so far is the message to Antonio Felix da Costa. That's absolutely correct. As he makes his way back into the pit lane, da Costa. He's into the semi-finals for the 3rd time this season. But he has never made it through to a final yet. He's lost in the semi-final on 2 occasions, in both Rome and Berlin. Here's a look at Jakarta Bay. And here's a look at what the semi-finals are going to be. Evans beating Van Doorn, Verne beating Wehrlein, Mortara beating Dennis, da Costa beating Buemi. Both DS Cheetahs through to the semi-finals. And Verne will face Evans and da Costa will face Eduardo Mortara. Then the winners go through to the final, and then the winner of that wins the Julius Baer pole position. So semi-finals in just a couple of moments. So there you can see that the next semi-finals will be coming up in about 7 minutes' time. There's a look at the Jakarta Bay and Ancol Beach, which is up there. There is the DS Cheetah garage, and Vernon is down there.
I am Jack. Yeah, thank you very much, James Rossiter, Sporting Director of DS Cheetah. Both drivers want to get in the duels, but both drivers in the semi-finals. An opportunity, a chance really, that they could face each other in the final.
There is a huge opportunity for us, I mean, to secure pole position. The guys have been on fire since the FP2. We made some big changes, and yeah, now we just got to make it count.
Any changes that you can talk about?
I mean, the biggest thing is just understanding what to do in these high temperatures. We haven't experienced really racing in this high temperature for a long time. So getting the tyres to work, also having the drivers to have the car working for the whole lap. Because here it's quite easy to push too hard in the first part of the lap and then struggle at the end. I think we've seen that with some of the other guys.
Just explain to us, what is the window that you're looking for with the tyres? What happens when they go out? Temperature obviously increases. What effect does that have on the car and therefore the inputs from the driver?
I think that the way of driving the outlap to get the tyres just to not build any temperature whatsoever, and then just trying to make it last a lap. It's so difficult with these cars to make the tyre last a whole lap when you're pushing that hard. So seems to be what they've mastered so far.
Yeah, but the thing is with DS Cheetah, you always seem to know what the algorithm is and the formula, because you guys seem to be consistently competitive.
Hard work.
There you go. That's the answer to everything, James. Thank you very much. Hard work, Jack. Hard work, my friend.
Yeah, not really aware of that concept. We're just coming to the end of the lap with Antonio Felix da Costa in the DS Cheetah. Rossiter's going to be doing some driving, isn't he? Hasn't he just been announced that he's going to be driving the
hypercar?
The hypercar, yeah. That's it, the Peugeot hypercar.
So Kevin Magnussen was slated to drive that, but obviously with Kevin getting the Haas Formula 1 drive, they needed a driver, and James Rossiter, Sporting Director for DS Cheetah, was also the reserve driver, so he's going to do that.
Yeah, part of the development team as well for the hypercar. So
busy boy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was Antonio Felix da Costa then, setting the quickest time in the duels. And you'd be hard-pressed to bet against a DS Cheetah pole position now, after they were so quick in free practice earlier on, and have been quick so far today.
You've got to do that lap, Jack. It's that old thing. The margin for error is tiny. The walls are right there, but the offline as well. There's marbles, there's dust. You've got to be millimetre perfect.
The wheels going on Mitch Evans' car as he gets ready to head out into the duel with Jean-Eric Verne in a moment. Here is Mitch Evans. So he has taken pole position before. He's made it into the semi-final as well in Rome. Never been knocked out in the quarterfinals, and that's still true. Mr. Dantarazzi.
head-to-head against Mitch Evans, but in terms of that track, it's new for everyone. How hard is it to get a fast-flying lap here?
Yeah, it's not been straightforward. I had a really good lap in the group stages, but then, yeah, I don't seem to be able to put it together in the duels actually after. So I haven't been able to do that recently actually. So yeah, it's a little bit of work to do from our side there, but I'm confident we can race quite well. It's going to be an unknown track for everyone, very hot conditions, and a lot to manage.
So duels not necessarily in your favour, but racing is. 3 podiums in the last 3 races. Are you still brimming with confidence?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we have a good race car. I feel comfortable in the race as well, so I feel like I can do a really good job from where I'm starting. Would have preferred to start a bit higher up, obviously. I think it would have made my life a little bit easier, but it is what it is. And yeah, we're going to try and make the most of it.
Good luck today.
Thanks.
So Stoffel van Dorn, as we look at how the progress is going to go on with Evans versus Verne and Mortara versus Da Costa, this will be the 3rd race in a row that Van Dorn has qualified 8th, i.e. slowest in the quarterfinals. It's the 5th time in 7 races that he's been the slowest quarterfinal runner. So 5 times in the last 7 races, Van Dorn has started 8th on the grid. It's quite curious.
Yeah, it tells me whatever he does at 250 kilowatts, it's not working. It's not slowing down
whatever
at
he's doing at 220 is great.
Yeah, at 220 exactly. He's absolutely spot on. He's both in racing and qualifying conditions.
Let's look at Jakarta International Stadium, just over the road from the racetrack here in Jakarta. Let's get back down to Radzi. Busy.
Pascal Wehrlein, there are no easy head-to-heads, especially not against Jean-Eric Verne, and it comes down to fine margins. How was that for you today?
Yeah, I would say it was not bad. Still struggling a bit with balance and so on, but I guess everyone is with these temperatures. And yeah, being in Group B and not having a lot of time to cool the tires down doesn't help. So in the end it was close, it was 1/10. And yeah, it's a shame because in the race we will get a 5-place grid penalty. So we will start outside of the top 10. Yeah, just try and do our best and see what we can do from there.
We can see a smile on your face, so you still seem happy within yourself. What does success look like for you now, given that penalty?
Yeah, some good points would be nice. Yeah, for sure, the race win is yeah, a bit out of reach for us at the moment, but good points would be good.
We hope you get it, mate. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
5-place grid drop for breaking a seal on the components at the back of the car. They didn't change anything or do anything, but Porsche wanted to check the component in the powertrain after the failure in Monaco. So that's why it's a 5-place grid drop for Pascal Wehrlein. Right, about to get going with the first semi-final. Jean-Eric Verne getting ready to head out on circuit. The Frenchman up against the New Zealander. And the winner of this will be guaranteed a spot on the front row of the grid. So semi-final 1. Mitch Evans for Jaguar TCS Racing against Jean-Eric Verne for DS Techeetah. Evans has beaten him before.
I love trying to handle the pressure of qualifying, trying to swing together that perfect lap with no mistakes to see where you stack up on the grid.
Well, I love this new qualifying format because it's only yourself and the other guy. And if you want to go ahead, start on pole, you just need to beat him and beat the other guys.
So the light goes green at the end of the pit lane. Mitch Evans makes his way on the track. Jean-Eric Verne waits. And this is a tight one to call this, but I just think with the pace that DS Techeetah have had, my money would be on Verne, I think.
Yeah, it's tough to bet against him, isn't he? That pace in free practice 2, but also his pace throughout the knockout stages, the dual stages, has been so impressive, both him and Antonio Felix da Costa. One thing to think about here, pole position obviously very important, 3 points, but it's also on the clean side of the circuit. And that could make a massive difference when we have the start of the race this afternoon. Anybody in the even numbers might be really up against it.
Very wise words.
That's the first.
So it'll Evans across the line first, followed by this man, Jean-Eric Verne.
Again, we see him coming through this 10-11 area, trying to put no energy through the tyres at all. Not trying to slide them at all. You don't want to put any loading into the tyre, don't want to put any heat into the tyre.
Verne has been in the semi-finals in 3 of the last 4 races. He took pole position for the second race in Rome. Through the long left comes Verne. There's the view in the DS Techeetah garage. That's the Jaguar garage. And this is the rundown towards the first corner. Evans on the left, Verne on the right. We've got split screen here, so this isn't in real time. Evans is further ahead on the road, but we've synced them up, and they are right together coming through turn 2.
Gotta say, Verne turned it a little bit earlier into 1. Just watch the steering, and both of them wrestle with trying to put the power down. Jeff slightly ahead, Jean-Eric Verne, 0.06 of a second. Understeer, this is turn 8 now.
Gap will extend or decrease here. It extends fractionally, but only by 0.08 of a second.
Yeah, trying to link those corners together and then picking out your braking point again for 13 over the bumps.
Verne now picking up 1/10 of a second. Evans maybe a little bit wide at the hairpin at 13. And the gap goes up even more. 1/4 of a second now is Verne's advantage. A tidy final corner, and this should be enough for Verne to get into the final. It's now 0.3 of a second. Verne out towards the line. And Verne's in the final. 0.3 of a second quicker. And Jean-Eric Verne advances through.
Gotta say, a 1:08.3 on hot tyres. That is quick.
Yeah.
It's very, very impressive pace.
But second row of the grid for Mitch Evans, and the championship leader Stoffel van Doorn is starting in 8th place. So championship-wise, that's decent. But of course, there is also the small matter of the second place driver in the championship. That's Eduardo Mortara. And the Rocket Venturi Racing man is up against Antonio Felix da Costa for DS Techeetah. Mortara has never failed to make the final once he's got through to the duels. And he took the last 2 pole positions in Berlin. Antonio Felix da Costa yet to make it to a final. Here comes Mortara across the line. Goes to the middle of the road to avoid the worst of the bumps and then gets onto the brakes into turn 1.
Quite a late turn in into 1.
Oh,
no.
Big slide for Mortara. That's going to cost him a huge amount of time.
You can't give that sort of advantage to Antonio Felix da Costa, especially as on form as the DS Techeetah has been today.
Keep an eye on the gap as they exit turn 1. Da Costa, he gets a bit wide as well. 400ths between them. Struggling to get it in. We'll see whether the gap extends dramatically in the next bit. It does, 10th and a half.
Yeah, the car slamming the ground and over the bumps to the braking zone of turn 7. Mortara into turn 13, the hairpin.
Right up towards the wall on the exit, but Da Costa's advantage is growing. 1/4 of a second now, ahead of Mortara. Is it going to be a DS Techeetah head-to-head for the final? It's certainly looking that way. Mortara, second place man in the championship for the first time. I don't think he's going to make it into the final once he's got through to the duels. He's closing in a little. He does a 1:08, 8.693. It's slower than Mitch Evans' time. So that would be 4th on the grid for Mortara if he loses to Da Costa here. Da Costa across the line. It's a DS Techeetah pole position. It's a DS Techeetah front row. Now we must just decide which order, because Antonio Felix da Costa is into the final.
Pressure just ramped up. First guy you want to beat is your teammate.
And that'll be 3rd on the grid for Mitch Evans.
So you will be second behind Jeff.
Come on, nice one.
And 4th on the grid for Eduardo Mortara. Now, as far as head-to-head qualifyings go, Verne and Da Costa, it's currently 5-3 to Verne. This was the slide from Mortara at 1.
Yeah, it looked worse on the in-car, but I think he had to get out of the throttle because that wall was approaching in a hurry. Just watching from the in-car. really early on the throttle. I think we're going to see more of this afternoon when the tyres start overheating and losing grip. This is going to be a really tough race.
So Mortara, second in the championship, will start 4th on the grid for the E-Prix later on this afternoon. Evans will be 3rd, and Mitch Evans down in 8th. So that's a really mouth-watering prospect. But what is also intriguing is a DS to Cheetah head-to-head in the final. First time we've had it. It's the first time we've had a team head-to-head. No, I think we might have had like a Porsche head-to-head in Saudi or something, but we haven't had many team head-to-heads. But now we have one for pole position. Jean-Eric Vergne versus Antonio Felix da Costa. Vergne currently 5-3 up. Da Costa making his way back out off the weighbridge, and we'll head back down to the garage. So,
who have you got?
Vergne. I think I'm back in Vergne. He was a couple of tenths quicker than Da Costa earlier on. Da Costa always gets annoyed when I say bad things about him on the television, but...
I'm going to have Da Costa.
Are you actually?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you mad?
We'll soon find out.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's not taking anything away from Jean-Eric Vergne, but I just think Antonio looks a bit more comfortable right now. But it's, I think, which one of them does not make a mistake?
Absolutely. Well, we'll be getting underway with the final in a few moments' time. Cars have just got to go back into the pit lane for a moment, back into the garage, and then in about 5 or 6 minutes, the final will get underway. Before the finals begin, let's head down to Vernon.
Jerome D'Ambrosio, initial thoughts really on Edo 4th on the grid?
I think it's a great quali. He lacked a bit of grip on the second duel, so didn't allow him to go into final. But overall, it's another strong quali for him after the back-to-back poles from Berlin to now be again on the 4th position on the grid. I think he's good. He's on a good momentum. He's feeling at one with the car, and so let's see now what we can do in the race. But a great quali for us.
And also the good news is that Stoffel is way behind you guys as far as the championship fight goes.
I think, you know, P8 is not very far, and at the same time we have a close relationship with Mercedes. We work well together. They provide us with the powertrain, so we don't wish bad on them at all.
All right, thanks, John. It's 4 places.
Jerome D'Ambrosio, then team principal of Venturi. And Vergne just cooling down. Now, this was the semi-finals runs from the DS to Cheetahs, so this is our sort of fake final, our dress rehearsal for the final, as it were. Costa had a bit of a correction into 1, or on the way out of 1, I should say.
I said Da Costa was a bit tighter out of 4 to set up for 5. Both of them so far inch perfect, aren't
yeah, it's identical, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, Da Costa made a slight mistake actually in 12, so there's lap time to be gained there.
It's just...
This is fabulous.
Like, I sort of don't believe that we're watching 2 different laps, you know what I mean? It's like we put the same lap side by side.
Yeah, I could see one mistake from Da Costa in 12. Fabulous stuff from both drivers, and I don't know how you separate that. If you're a team principal, you pat them both in the back and say, well done. Now you've got to do it all for the pole position, though, and
yeah.
3 points.
Well, absolutely, and those 3 points for Jean-Eric Vergne would move him just 1 point behind Eduardo Mortara. 3 points for Antonio Felix da Costa would leave him still 10th in the championship. He's scored quite a few times this season, da Costa. He's had 5 points finishes, which is not bad at all, but just not the big points. Said to me yesterday, oh, I was just letting the others get a head start, and now I'm going to really start trying. So we'll see whether that comes true.
Yeah, see, it's very interesting, for sure. I agree.
Eduardo Mortara.
It's going to be interesting for sure.
Sorry.
Making his way to Radzi, and so I'm sure we'll hear from him in a couple of moments' time. The man who will start 4th on the grid, the second place man in the championship. He and Mitch Evans on the second row is a very intriguing prospect, and this is what I love about this qualifying format. It just shuffles it up enough that every grid is interesting. Da Costa, that's interesting. Da Costa has lost 5 duels and won 4, and has only been in the final on 1 occasion, which I think is this occasion, right? Yeah, this is Da Costa's first final appearance. Werner's won 8 duels, lost 5 duels, so he's got a better win ratio than Da Costa, and this is his second appearance in a final. 14 pole positions. If he gets pole, he will be the outright record holder for pole positions. We saw the drivers heading to Radzi. Let's go join him.
Well, Eduardo Mortara, we can see you taking a drink there. It's hot out here today.
It's I've rarely felt so bad actually, because of you're going like into hammam or something like that. Like seriously, like it's pretty bad. But like, look, I mean, it's part of the game. It's the same for everyone. So.
But for yourself, your form from Berlin seems to be continuing second row.
Thank you, thank you. It looks like we figured out how to be more consistent, let's say, in qualifying. We pretty much extracted pretty much all the performance out of our car today. I think more was difficult to do. Yeah, both the cheetahs were extremely competitive, and I'm extremely happy to be starting on P4 for the race. It's going to be a long one.
It's going to be a long one. It's going to be a fascinating one. Go and cool down. Thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot.
So Eduardo Mortara, 4th on the grid, 2nd in the championship currently. But now it's time for the final. This is how we got here. Evans beat Van Dorn, Vern beat Verline, Mortara beat Dennis, and Da Costa beat Buemi. And in the semi-finals, Vern beat Evans and Da Costa beat Mortara. And in the final, it's Vern versus Da Costa for 3 points for pole position for a Julius Baer trophy and for the front of the grid for round 9 of the ABB FIA Formula World Championship. Vern's beaten Da Costa before earlier this year when they went head-to-head, but now the battle is for pole position between Jean-Eric Vern and Antonio Felix Da Costa, the 2 DS Cheetah drivers.
So we watched that onboard, that side-by-side, and both, it was too close to call. If you're either of these drivers, where are you going to make the difference? Where are you going to just find that extra? I mean, it could be 0.5 of a second. That could be the difference between winning and losing. Da Costa parked the car, no, sorry, Jean-Eric parked the car tight against the wall, maybe trying to get in the shade a little bit.
If you're this gang now, Mark Preston, the CEO, or Thomas Chevauchet, the team principal, or James Rossiter, the sporting director, are you nervous at this point? Do you care at this point? Because obviously the race engineers on each side of the garage and the mechanics on each side are going to be nervous and want pole.
At this point, you're playing with the house's money, aren't you? The worst you can start second. So if I'm obviously each car's got their own thing and they want to beat the other. But if you're in any of those guys you mentioned, you're just like, yeah, this is cool. This is what we worked for.
Yeah.
And a lot of hard work goes into this, to putting this team, to any of the teams in these positions. So and to have that kind of advantage in Formula E, quite impressive.
Now, I believe Da Costa on the radio has been told not to fight and to save the tyres. So we'll see what happens.
If that means don't overdrive it,
yeah,
because his tyres are a bit warmer, maybe.
We'll see. We'll see what happens once the lap begins, which it will in a couple of moments' time.
Because he had the second of the duels as Jean-Eric Vern starts the lap.
So the run down towards turn 1 for Jean-Eric Vern. Gets onto the brakes.
God, he's carried some speed in there. So far, so good for Jean-Eric Vern.
Through the first few corners, Da Costa starts his lap now. So keep an eye on the tower on the left-hand side. Da Costa into the first corner. Flouts the curb.
Yeah, he's definitely fighting it a bit harder. And again, that might be it right there. Tyres maybe slightly warmer than Antonio Felix da Costa's car.
This is Jean-Eric Verne now coming into 11 and 12. He's having to fight it. Da Costa's lost 2/10 with that moment at turn 3.
I think I'm going to lose my bet here, Jack.
But Verne has been a little scrappy here and there. Comes into 16, the advantage builds to 1/4 of a second. A few more corners to go for Jean-Eric Verne. He's now over 3/10 of a second ahead. Jean-Eric Verne is about to become the record holder for the most pole positions in Formula E history. He's going to beat his teammate. He's going to grab 3 points. Da Costa's still fighting the car as he comes through the final couple of corners. Maximum attack from Da Costa, but minimum pace. Through the final corner, sliding again. It's like he's on a drift track, and it's not enough. Jean-Eric Verne takes pole position for the Jakarta E-Prix, his 15th pole position in Formula E, a new record.
Yeah, that's pole, baby. Well done, mate.
And it's a front row lockout for DS Techeetah.
I think we actually saw smoke out the back of
We
Da
did,
Costa's
didn't we? Honestly,
car as he drove.
it was like an actual drifter out the final corner.
I think it just might be the tyres are that bit warmer from his later duel, but yeah, 1-2 for DS Techeetah. That's really impressive.
First front row lockout of the season. There's Verne.
Down to 13. Oh, that was close.
So close, love it. But that man, Thomas Chevauché, is going to be happy.
He's probably thinking about the race already.
Yeah.
That brief moment of happiness. Great job, right? Okay, how are we going to win the race? That's the mindset you need. Driver, engineers, the whole team, mechanics.
Verne returning to the garage. 0.8 of a second, the margin in the end was pretty big.
Yeah, I think Da Costa just knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just started giving us a show.
It was great.
Yeah.
Tyres are ready. Look at the right rear. And we've still got a race to do.
They're a bit too far away to hear what Rossiter and Chevauché are saying. But high fives all around in the DS Techeetah garage. Now attention turns to the race, which is coming up in just a little over 3 hours' time. And the one pole position that Jean-Eric Verne had earlier this year in the first race in Rome, he was not able to convert into a win, ended up finishing second to Mitch Evans in that race. And he'll be hoping to convert it for his first win of the season, because no wins yet. Third in the championship, but no wins. So let's have a look at the side-by-side and just watch Da Costa on the right-hand side, because there's a lot of slides here, and the first one is on the exit of turn 1.
Yeah, just look at the steering wheel. Watch the different steering wheel from the two of them. And then watch here, right here in the middle of 2 and 3. There we go. That's the first slide. It just doesn't have the grip. It's just the tyres are not biting into the surface the way Jean-Eric Verne's are. The braking zone, turn 7. Yeah, Da Costa already. He's just having to slide. And it looks more of the rear tyres. And this is what we're going to see this afternoon as well.
Oh, big one there.
Slide. I mean, that's late. That's through 9. That's not an initial power either. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of this afternoon. The driver's trying to keep the tyre in its sweet spot. So it's not going to be easy. Another snap of oversteer. And by this point, I mean, Da Costa's known for half a lap. He's in a bit of trouble. And it just gets worse. The more you slide the car, look at that, it was 16. The more you slide the car, the more the tyre heats up, the more it slides.
Here comes the big one into 18.
Watch him on the throttle, watch him snap back to the left on the steering. That was beautiful.
Lovely.
You should get style points for that.
Yeah, I agree, actually.
That was it. Where we saw the semi-final was too close to call.
Yeah.
That was pretty clear, pretty early on, but turn 2. What was going on?
still second on the grid for Da Costa, his best qualifying performance of the season. He was third in the first race in Berlin on the grid, fifth for the second race, and now second. So he's in good form as far as the qualifying goes. Anyway, this is how the grid will line up. Antonio Giovinazzi will be at the back. He and Robin Freitz failing to qualify. Alexander Sims will be 20th for Mahindra, then Oliver Askew in 19th. Dan Ticktum didn't get a second lap in, so he's down in 18th on the grid. Max Gunter, 15th for the Nissan Edam squad. Nick Cassidy, only 13th. Sam Bird, down in 14th position. Pascal Wehrlein with a 5-place grid drop means he will be 11th, which promotes Lucas de Grassi into the top 10. Nick de Vries, 9th, winner of the last race. Andre Losser will be 8th on the grid. Stoffel van Dorn will be 7th after the grid drop for Wehrlein. Jake Dennis, 5th. Sebastian Buemi with his best qualifying of the season so far. And the same is true of Da Costa and Verne. Front row lockout for Diaz Techeetah. You can see how sunny it is. Now that Verne is out into the sunshine, heading down towards Radzi. Cold towel on the head. A bit of rehydration. Da Costa. Just trying to get a look at his demeanour, and a little, we'll hear from him in a moment, but maybe a little disappointed. Obviously, I mean, he got to the final and didn't manage to take pole. Mitch Evans will start third on the grid for Jaguar TCS Racing. Lunchtime already at Jaguar. It's not even noon. Not even noon. But it's already lunchtime for these drivers, because 3 hours time, the race will be underway. Enjoy. What's he got? I'm trying to see, is it like some salad or something? Or something healthy, or a bit of pasta, or...
What have you got?
Oh, what's that? A sauce thing going in a...
It's healthy.
Oh, nice. Some like... Wow. That's lovely stuff.
Looking gorgeous.
Right, that's the fuel of racing drivers. Wasn't quite enough. But look at that. The track temperature 46 degrees, air temperature 30 degrees. Lovely clear blue sky, though, which is heating the track up, but means that at the moment, we haven't got any rain on the horizon. Sebastian Buemi with his best qualifying performance of the season so far. So, Sebastian Buemi will be 6th on the grid, but on pole position, it is Jean-Eric Verne.
Jean-Eric Verne in the inaugural Jakarta E-Prix, pole sitter and 3 points. You must be absolutely delighted.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, no better way to start the day. You know, I think we've done a good job so far this morning, and in qualifying as well. Antonio did a very good job also to be there with me in the final. So it's always very tough, you know, to beat the guy that has the same car. So no, I'm happy. 3 points as well. Is, you know, those are important for the championship, and then in the race we see what happens. It's better to start first than behind, I guess.
A brilliant Diaz Techeetah head-to-head, but also a bit of history for you. 15 pole positions now. Never before has anyone achieved that in all of Formula E history. So you are a record breaker. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's bad. I didn't know that. I'm very happy. That's good. I hope I can you know, keep breaking that record. And yeah, it would be yeah, it's good. Didn't know.
Well, the upshot of that victory means you now get presented with the trophy of the Julius Baer Bowl Position, presented by Jason Moo, the head of private banking of Southwest Asia and the branch manager, Singapore.
Moments like that always make me a bit stressed, because Jean-Eric Verne didn't know that was true, and I think it's true. I'm pretty sure it's true, but and we have checked it, so it is true. Jean-Eric Verne then, pole position. Julius Baer pole position, 3 points, which take him to 98. Just 1 point now behind Mortara, and just 13 points off Stoffel van Dorn. It's really closing in, especially with Van Dorn starting 7th on the grid. after their 5-place grid drop of Verline, and Evans third and Mortara fourth, and Byrne on pole. It's really, I love this qualifying format and how it just gives you that little bit of shuffle. Just a little bit of shuffle. And makes for a very intriguing E-Prix. We had a great race in Berlin, and hopefully these fans that have made their way here to North Jakarta, to Ancol, will be enjoying it as well. Jake Dennis giving some feedback. 5th on the grid for Jake Dennis, for Avalanche Andretti. He's been on the front row twice, in Diriyah and Rome. But 5th place here is a very solid performance. Oliver Askew down in 19th position. A little bit more frustrating for the other side of the Avalanche Andretti garage. So positives and negatives for Roger Griffiths. But it will be 5th on the grid for Dennis. So second place on the grid will be Antonio Felix da Costa. DS Techeetah front row lockout, not quite enough to beat his teammate this afternoon.
Antonio Felix da Costa, brilliant driving all morning. In the final, it was a head-to-head against DS Techeetah as well. It seemed to go a little bit differently there, so a bit pear-shaped. What happened for you?
Look, look, we're approaching the second. We are in the second part of the season now. Jeff is obviously in a little bit of a stronger position to fight for the championship. So let's just say we played a little bit of a team card there. It is what it is, no problem. Regardless of all of that, I'm very happy and have to be very thankful to the whole team and all the work we've done in the last couple of weeks, because I've pushed my team, especially my side of the garage, very hard to capitalize on the second half of the season, and we arrived here with a strong car, making no mistakes, and we have a front row lockout for the team. So very happy with the job that everyone's done back in Paris and here as well, executing the job today. So let's see what we can do in the race.
What's fascinating is for everyone, they come in knowing very little, but what you guys have done has clearly worked. What do you put that down to?
I don't know. Look, we've always been pretty strong in new tracks, I have to say. Yeah, I don't know. Car is obviously strong. Everyone here has been dominating at some point. You know, Mercedes dominating here, the Porsche is dominating there, and it looks like this is a track that's suiting us well in a one lap. I think in race pace we are not bad, but I saw some other cars doing some good stuff this morning. So it's going to be a super close race, I've no doubts. And normally we have to manage all the energy, but today we're going to have to manage a lot of temperatures as well. So there's going to be a lot on the plate for us today.
We can't wait to see it. Have a great race.
And the man in charge of both of those drivers at DS Techeetah, Jev and Antonio Felix da Costa, who we've just seen, Thomas Chevaucheur, is with us now. Thomas, he said there's some kind of race card being played there. Can you explain a little bit?
I would say it's car protection more than team cards. We know that we are on a very difficult track. It's very hot. It's very rare to have that opportunity, to have that kind of performance with both our drivers on a race. We want to achieve very good results there, definitely with both cars.
I mean, obviously, both cars are really quick. The DS Techeetah is so good in qualifying trim today. What's going to be the difference in the race? What's going to be the biggest things to deal with?
I think there is not much difference in a race. No, it will be very difficult on the long run with that heat and the track temperature. It will be very a challenge for the tires, for the cars, for the drivers, for everything. So it will be really about reliability of the car and management for the heat.
Is this a unique situation? It is a unique situation so far this season, but we've seen conditions like this before. In Sanya, it was really hot. Also in Santiago, it's really hot as well. So you guys seem to have everything mapped out, everything planned out. You go back to the old algorithms. Is that the way that DS Techeetah do things?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of experience. We have been
Jev, come on, Jev. If
we have been in the championship since the very beginning of season 2, so we have a huge experience. So we know that this is very difficult conditions. Oh, here is the man.
Congratulations, Jev.
Well done.
Thank you.
That was pretty good for an old guy, huh? I'm really old.
Yeah, but he's old. He's old, but he's not driving anymore. You're still driving. Jev, congratulations. It looks like a lot of fun out there.
Yeah, it was, and it was getting trickier and trickier as the tires get warmer, and it was quite hard to put a lap without doing mistakes. And I think we've done a good job with the team. Obviously, the car is good because we were both in final, Antonio and myself. So now hopefully we can have a nice, clean, controlled race this afternoon and bring home some strong points.
You're thinking of the championship. You have to be thinking about the championship halfway through the season. This is going to put you both in good stead to hopefully build a lot of points. Front row lockout, which is awesome. But you've won the championship. You're our only back-to-back champion. Are you thinking of a third now?
No.
Don't lie to us, Jev. You are thinking of a third.
Okay, I am.
Yeah, and this is the perfect team to do it. Thomas, you guys seem to have this amazing consistency, which, you know, dare I say, not many teams in Formula E, the World Championship, seem to have. But you guys are consistently at the front, consistently fighting for points, and, of course, championships.
Yeah, definitely. We are working hard to be there. We have experience. We are focusing on getting the best people to do the team, especially the best drivers. So I think we have two very good drivers. We have very good engineers, very strong teams, very good mechanics to have strong car, reliable car. And we know that reliability and consistency is what we need here.
And very diplomatic.
Very. Are we at the point yet in the season where we can talk about team orders for you guys with the different championship positions between your two drivers?
Once more, I think it's a bit early to speak about that. We're here speaking about car protection here. It's very difficult conditions, definitely. So we already experienced issues in very hot conditions. I'm sure you all remain that. At least me personally, I don't forget. So it's really car protection at the moment.
All right, Thomas, Jeff, thank you very much. You go and celebrate. However, it's not over yet. We've still got the race. Good luck to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thomas. Let me take your microphone. Thank you. All the best. A very confident team, Dario.
Yeah, that performance was... We don't normally see that level of dominance from free practice 2 and then into qualifying as well. Absolutely mighty. So I'm sure that they're not just thinking about, oh, yeah, that was great, how well we did. They'll be thinking, right, okay, the race, this is going to be big. You know, Thomas Chevauche said, look, the car protection. They're just thinking as well, you know, the battery temperature. There's so many variables in this afternoon's race. 45 minutes plus a lap. But I think this is going to be an endurance race.
Well, if you look at the front of the grid now, we've got the two DS cheaters, but then in the next row, you've got Mitch and Edo. I mean, those two guys are fighting for the championship.
Oh, yeah, no, the championship battle is alive and well right through it. And I think we might see some surprises from further back in the field today, but we're seeing how, to almost contradict myself, we're seeing how important qualifying is. You want to challenge for this championship, you better be qualifying in that front half of the field week in, week out.
We started the qualifying show talking about the success of Mercedes in Berlin. That hasn't continued here for the EQ team in particular here in Jakarta.
No, not yet. I mean, the race is far. We've got to run the race yet, but qualifying, no, certainly not where they would want to be. Stoffel starting 8th, again, the slowest of the guys that made the duels, but I think he'll have a strong race. Nick de Vries needs to, you know, we thought he found his mojo back in Berlin, but, you know, still struggling a little bit. We hold him to a very high standard. He's our current world champion.
We know that the heat is going to play a pivotal part in this race because the temperature is rising, the sun is beating down, track temperature is increasing. You've been there, Dario. You've raced in a car in this kind of temperature. Psychologically and physically, what impact does it have on the driver?
I think psychologically as much as anything, that's going to be the big thing today, and how the drivers deal with that. When they get really hot and then the frustration starts in the race, maybe staying cool. Same for the drivers all here, the mechanics, the engineers here as well, when they're making these decisions. They've got to be just ice cold when it's so warm. That's the biggest thing. Physically, all these drivers are athletes. They all, every day they're in the gym, so they'll be fine with that.
Now, I feel like a leaking tap at the moment. It is so hot and we're both sweating like crazy. Let me ask you some silly physical questions. When you're driving, do your fingers get sweaty in your gloves?
I never really noticed that.
Do you get sweat pouring down your brow? And is there a possibility of it going in your eye?
Yeah, it does go in your eyes, and it stings
really?
When it's in your eyes. Yeah, definitely. I would open the visor just a little bit to get some air coming in, just to kind of dry it all out.
Interesting stuff. All right, thanks, Dario. Let's go over to Radzi.
Sebastian Buemi, it's hot, it's humid out here, it's tough qualifying conditions. How was it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did a good job in the groups. Obviously, I didn't have the pace to fight Antonio. I did a small mistake, and there is some marbles on the outside of the line. So as soon as you touch them, you basically have no more grips. So lost a lot more time. But even without that, I don't think I would have had the pace to fight him. I think he's been the fastest of the duels. So yeah, I mean, still something like P7 for the race. So we'll hope to do a good job.
The DS2 cheaters, both cars have been very, very fast. What you touched on in terms of the marbles and the conditions of the track, is it actually of benefit to back off a little bit when it comes to the race?
Yeah, the thing is, it looks like the tire wear is massive, the most we've ever had, and then it's a bit difficult to know whether it's the asphalt falling apart on the outside or the marbles, but clearly you'll have a single line in the race, and if you end up running wide, you'll hit the wall or lose a lot of lap time.
We don't want that, but all the best of luck for the race today. Thank you.
I like this when we walk down the pits. It's pretty cool. Dario, Jack, you've sat in the commentary booth. You've seen qualifying, this new qualifying format. I hate to harp on about it, but I'm going to. It's doing exactly what we want it to do.
We've just got a great little shuffle after this, and everyone's not in the exact quickest order, but the championship is just muddled a little bit. Stoffel Van Dorn, championship leader, down in 7th on the grid. You mentioned it a moment ago. Mortara and Evans on the 2nd row. Verne on pole position. It's set up beautifully for this race.
It's a great track, Dario, isn't it? It's turning out to be quite a good one, this.
It is a great track. You know, there's not much of the track. The car is actually straight, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the tyres this afternoon. There's a couple of good overtaking opportunities, particularly turn 13, so easy to make a mistake too. I think it's all to play for.
Yeah, turn 1, turn 13, attack mode on the exit of 16. Will people get a little bit...
7's a tricky one as well, though, isn't it?
7 maybe overtaking?
Yeah, 7's so wide, though, and it's very bumpy on the way, and so we might see some interesting moves going in there. The only problem is, as soon as you go slightly offline, it's so dusty still that could create some interesting interactions between cars, shall we say.
So do we think that DS Techeetah are going to use Da Costa as like a rear buffer? Right, to just...
It was interesting
like
what he said,
gunner,
though.
yeah.
He said that there was some kind of team card played. I don't know what he was implying there. Thomas was having none of it. He just says it's just protection of the car. But we'll see, I think. Dario, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be depending on how they get off the line. You know, if Antonio Felix da Costa's on the dirty part of the circuit, it could really... He might not be second going into the first corner. And, I mean, I think 4, 5, 6 wide into turn 1 is definitely possible. Depends how brave people are feeling.
We've seen DS Techeetah not play well together in the past when they've started at the front. You think back to end of season 6 in
You
Berlin.
think back to most races, right? There was that point where they couldn't play nice at all.
Well, I think Jeb's the one consistent thing in all of that, because he had the same thing with Andre Lotra, who allegedly was his best mate, and they're still driving into each other.
Yeah, and they're still best mates as well, aren't
Absolutely.
they? So I think we've got a lot on the line here.
I think before we finish qualifying, we should talk about how much fun it looked like Antonio Felix da Costa was having on that last lap. He was just throwing the back end
He was
around.
just showboating it around, wasn't he? And I think there'll be a lot of that in the race later.
Yeah, but I don't think they were doing it on purpose in the race.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, join us later for the race, live from Jakarta. We will see you later this afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
Going in 30 seconds.
Radio check.
Copy.
Loud and clear.
All good. Let's go.
Go to drive. Go to drive.
Push into attack. Push into attack. Legend, keep it up.
Increase charge where we can.
Excellent job.
Push to attack this lap.
Good job, good job.
And we go green in Jakarta.